Good evening and welcome to the second round of the Apex Rear Wing British Touring Car Championship. Tonight from a historic version of the Oulton Park International Circuit. It is my absolute pleasure tonight to bring to you our commentators Matt Dunlop and Liam Harrison.
Thank you very much, Stairs. I am Liam Harrison, also known as Mad Bird. Stairs is in a broadcast production mode tonight, so I'm stepping in to fill the void. We are here just outside sleepy parish of Little Budworth near Liverpool at the Oulton Park Circuit. I am Mad Bird and I am joined in the commentary box by Matty Dunlop. How are you, Matty?
I'm good. Hello everyone. Yes, I am Matt Dunlop, or as I'm also known, Matthew by my mother when I'm in trouble. We are here at Oulton Park Circuit, and this is actually one of my favourite tracks. It doesn't really get a whole lot of love and attention compared to some of the other British tracks like Silverstone, Oulton Park, that sort of thing. This is Oulton Park. Silverstone, Donington is the one I was thinking about there. I'm off to a flying start. It's been a while since I've been in the booth, but I'm back and raring to go. But Oulton Park is a great track because it's got fantastic inclines, it's got really high speeds and some really tricky corners, doesn't it, Madbird?
It does. It's a fair bit bumpy, is the old Oulton Park, and I think I described it as quintessentially British in that you don't realise the corner's there until you're in the corner. It's like they're hiding in the bushes, and you come around the bushes, and you're suddenly in the middle of a corner. That was a bit more of a meandering thought than I expected it to be.
As Dennis Cometti would say, they sneak up on you like a librarian.
They do sneak up on you like a librarian. So we have got the points from the first round. Or after the first round, that is. Berto currently leading the championship with a win in the reverse grid race and a second place in the first race. Ziras, with a unfortunate accident in the reverse grid race, is 5 points shy with 23. Sam Smith hot on his heels with 22 points, and Brenton Foley with a surprise podium in the reverse grid race is currently in fourth place. And then we've got Resist, Netherelmian, Roadhog, Goofball Antics, Decimage, and Zarlinger rounding out the top 10.
So I think Berto had one of the unique distinctions. I'm not sure. I've only been commentating ARW since Season 7. But has there been time previously where we've been giving out points for pole position?
No, yes. So good point. So there was a
good point for Berto.
It was a very good point for Berto, and a very good point that you yourself raised. We are giving out 1 point for a pole position in the main race, not for the reverse grid, because we're not going to reward someone for being the slowest in the first race and thus starting on pole in the reverse grid. So Berto was the beneficiary. He started on pole in the first race, but almost immediately got lapped by the BMW of Ziras.
You may also be thinking, so if there's a reverse grid for the second race, what are my chances if I'm having a bad first race that I can just tank it? Do not finish the race, just pull into the pits early and get pole position. Well, good question, audience, and I will tell you, if you do that, you're still starting from the back of the grid. Tough luck. So DNFs do not count towards the reverse grid. You have to finish. You have to be classified in the race to be part of that.
Yep, which as per normal with ARW is 75% of the race, or for tonight, 2 races of 14 laps, so you need to finish 11 laps to be classified for the race. So, as you say, no tanking.
So they're pretty short races, relatively speaking. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We always do like a short race here at Apex Rear Wing because it provides really good punchy action, and it gives us a good chance to see how some of these drivers who may have unfortunate or bad qualifying sessions can quickly fight their way through the field, and how well the guys at the front are able to defend. So at the moment, let's have a look at the practice standings, and we do have Berto, who's currently leading the way by just under a tenth of a second over Ziras.
Yeah, it's. I was saying just before that it's actually quite tight. We've got first through sixth, which is currently Goofball Antics, are all covered by a second. So it's last round. It was pretty punchy towards the top of the timing sheets in qualifying for that pole position. But at the moment, Berto looks like he has the cookies at the time. But you can never really count out Ziras. He's always got an extra gear that he can just slot that gear stick into and shoot off ahead. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him starting on pole here at round 2.
He's always there, isn't he? I've always noticed that about Ziras in my commentating time, is that no matter what car you throw him in, and no matter how much experience he's had as he goes up on two wheels big time, he can always find a way to make himself go fast, whether he's got four wheels on the ground or not. So it's great fun to always watch him go around the track. And he's in the BMW 318i, which, unlike most of the other cars in this field, is rear-wheel drive, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. The BMW's the only cars, I believe, that are rear-wheel drive. The rest of them all front-wheel drive, other than the Audi, piloted by our friend Roadhog 29389, which is a four-wheel drive beast. So we saw in the reverse grid last round that that despite starting from third, Roadhog managed to jump the front-wheel drive and the rear-wheel drive that were ahead of him and go straight into the lead. So very good starter is the Audi with that four-wheel drive.
Oh, absolutely. But in terms of the race petering out, it'll be interesting to see what happens here at Oulton Park with the high-speed sections and whatnot, because not sure if that car carries a bit more weight owing to the four-wheel drive system as maybe a penalty to bring it in line performance-wise, because that's one of the beauties of this super touring category, is that all these cars are relatively evenly matched.
Yeah, it's sort of it's sort of like a balance of power in modern racing, except I don't know if they actually balanced them. I don't think they did. I think it was just sort of a happy coincidence that all the cars happened to sort of work out to be not the same, not exactly the same or anything like that, but they have their own strengths and weaknesses that over the course of a championship work out to no one car being particularly dominant.
For a brief moment in the history of super touring, the planets truly aligned. So we've got just over 7 minutes left in this practice section, and we're just seeing a couple more cars peeling out for some final laps. Maybe doing some qualifying practice before we get underway for that qualifying session. Berto's still in the pits. Ziras is out there at the moment, still plugging away, trying to get his way up the leaderboard, but he hasn't been able to improve since.
And a newcomer from last week, we've got Greg Tara joining us in the Repsol Racing Volvo, which he wasn't particularly happy with how that car looked, but I think it looks the bee's knees. Didn't manage to get any. He got a couple of races under his belt during the DRM season, but only two, and I don't know if he actually classified in either of them. I think he DNF'd in both. So he's hopefully jumping in on round 2 of season 9 here is going to have a bit more of a better run for this season.
Well, he's currently sitting, where is he? 9th in the standings in the practice session, just over a second and a half off Berto's time, which isn't too bad considering that it's his first outing in these super touring cars. But the question I have for you, Madbird, is would you consider that yellow or orange?
It's a very good question. I would consider that. I would consider that orange. It's on the very edge of being yellow. I would say it's
yellow rising. That's what I'm going to call it.
Yellow rising. It's sort of egg yolk color, which I've always thought is more of an orange. But I know people say egg yolk yellow, but yeah, I'd consider that an orange personally. What about yourself, Matty?
You know what? I'm similarly on the fence as well. So I just wanted to throw you that curveball to see how you'd respond to it in the thick of the action. You are tuned to Apex Rear Wing, folks, where we bring you the very best sim racing commentary with all the best analysis live on the spot. And I personally think that is yellow. Now, let's talk about how we think he's going to fare, because he is currently sitting 9th in these practice standings. He did, in fact, not finish either of the races he competed in the DRM season. I reckon he's a pretty good chance to get some points on the board today.
Yeah, Watkins Glen, and Montreal were the two races that he competed in in the DRMs. These cars are quite a bit easier to handle than those rear-wheel drive DRM beasts that we used in Season 8. And Oulton Park, though, is probably a little bit trickier than either of those tracks. Probably has the most in common with Watkins Glen, which is also a sort of similar country track with lots of curves and bumpy road.
Yeah, it is very similar characteristics. And there are some massive bumps, particularly where the chicanes that are normally used on this track lie, because those are sort of almost always used in the real life racing that happens here at Oulton Park. So when you transition over those chicaned areas where you're just going straight through it, you're going to experience a bit of bumping, especially through the, what's the name of the corner again? I've got to find out. It is the Knickerbrook corner, which is normally subject to a chicane because of the distinct lack of runoff and the huge speeds you carry into there. But we're just going straight on through it this weekend. So do you reckon that'll catch a few people out? Looks like everyone's been able to handle it pretty well so far.
Earlier on in the practice session, I saw a couple of people flying off there. We've just been watching Greg Tara put up with some incredible pressure from Ziras, who's now returned to the garage, and so has Greg Tara. Yes, we're copying the 1996 British Touring Car Championship calendar, and the particular version of Oulton Park they used had one chicane. But Automobilista hasn't deigned to give us that particular option, so it's either two or none. So we've gone with the none option in this case.
High speed,
Foley,
by the way.
So Foley has hopped up into second place. We spoke to him obviously after the reverse grid and his podium last week, and as he's just that's a hefty impact. He said that he is not getting on with these cars at all, despite the fact that I think Stairs and I thought that he seemed quite suited to them since he was sideways in every corner, which is usually how he drives at the best of times. He said that he does not feel comfortable in them at all, and that he's having trouble coming to grips with them. But at the moment, he's sitting 7,000th of a second ahead of Ziras and in second place. But with 2.5 minutes left to go until qualifying, this is not the time he wants to be setting those blistering laps.
Well, it can definitely be quick in these cars, but if he's worried about his, if he's not feeling comfortable and he's still spinning out in situations like that, I think it's a matter of him needing to manage his own driving a little bit, sort of easing off just a bit when he's not feeling comfortable at the car. Obviously, pushing hard once he starts getting familiar, but there's going to be some teething issues by the sounds of it. But he is very quick and it's promising, and he is in a rear-wheel drive car, so you can expect to see that thing go absolutely sideways throughout the whole of qualifying and the two races we have.
Yeah, we saw it last season in the DRMs. He was the start of the season. He was sort of nowhere. He couldn't really get to grips with them, but towards the end, he really came into his own. Gave me a lot of troubles the last couple of races, chasing me down. So I've got first-hand experience of having him up my chuff, and he definitely is no slouch when it comes to racing, as evidenced by his many Automobilista Australia championships, of course, where we've recruited him from our good friend Brenton Foley. Minute and 12 seconds left until the qualifying session begins. Maddie, who are you picking for pole at this stage?
For pole, it's hard to go past Berto, but the margins at the front are just so tight. I think I'm just going to go Ziras for pole position. Ziras is always a safe bet, and I don't like making safe bets, but here we are. Ziras for pole. What do you reckon?
Safe as houses. It's difficult because it's not like the shootouts where that we've had for the last probably 4 or 5 seasons. They actually get a 10-minute session in this season to do their qualifying in, which is a bit of a change for some of our guys who've been with us only while we've done shootouts. But I reckon Berto has the edge. He's sitting about 0.07 of a second clear of Ziras at the moment in practice, and I think he just seems a bit more composed in these cars. I know he's done a lot of practice. He's one of those guys that really enjoys wringing everything he can out of a car. So I reckon he's a good chance for the pole position today.
Something that's going to be interesting to take note of is the traffic that's going to be involved, because of course we're used to the shootout format here at Apex Rear Wing. Now that we've got all the cars out on track at any one time, there could be some issues with traffic, especially with some of the slower cars holding up some of the faster guys. So it's going to be an important aspect of strategy for these drivers to ensure they get out on the track at the right moment.
So we were just looking at Sam there, who looks like he backed out of a quick lap. It is, of course, just practice, but the session has just ticked over, so we will be hopping into qualifying any second now, and Berto's car glitching out there, I think, heralds the end of practice session. Here we go. So we have got a 10-minute qualifying session. It determines the grid for race 1. You've got unlimited laps, unlimited tyres, around this Oulton Park International Circuit, or Oulton Park Classic, technically, circuit. And no shootouts, nothing fancy, just get out there. You got 10 minutes to set the fastest lap time that you can. So we're just waiting for the session to tick over now.
So just having a short 10-minute session means that there's not going to be too much variation in the conditions of the track. So ordinarily, in a longer qualifying session, you'd wait until the end for track conditions to improve, for the racing line to rubber up and things like that. Nothing of the sort here. We're probably going to be seeing fast times dotted throughout the session, and it's going to keep us on our toes, I can say that much.
Absolutely. It does carry over the wear from the practice session, which has been going for the last hour and 15 minutes or so. So there'll probably be a little bit of rubber on the track, but definitely nowhere near optimum track conditions.
Definitely not. And another thing I've been noticing in the practice session is that these cars can get up on two wheels very easily if they hit a curb in the wrong way. So we're just seeing the cars pulling out into pit lane now. Hopefully don't see anybody tipping over in the qualifying session for the driver's sake.
Yeah, James has exited the pits before the light has gone green, so it may not count his first hot lap, and he has indeed gone back to the pits. So thought better of it in the end. Who is our first runner on track? I reckon it might be Goofball Antics. Nope, it is not. I am a horrible liar. It is going to be one of the white cars. I'm just trying to figure it out. It is Brenton Foley has jumped out to be first man on the track, the pathfinder, as it were, for this outlap in his beautiful, resplendent, oh lord, there he goes, PBF Race Engineering mobile-inspired BMW.
Trying to get some heat in those tyres the only way he knows how, by sending it absolutely sideways through a ridiculously fast corner, which is just what we like to see. And I reckon Brenton Foley's deliberately trying to jump out as quick as he can to minimise that traffic in front of him, so he can focus on just getting this clean lap down and post it on the board.
Yeah, it's only the 12 runners, so it probably won't be as big an issue with traffic as it would be if we had more than 12 runners. What a dead end of a sentence that was. But regardless, as you say, there's nothing worse than coming up upon a car on their out lap, as Foley got up on two wheels there for the briefest of moments. Coming up on a slow car when you're on your out lap, on your fast lap rather, trying to warm up their own tyres and killing your own prospective pole position lap. So here we go, Foley coming around the last corner to start his flying lap. So
just having a look at the replay now of him getting up on two wheels once again, and I think that was through Druid's corner, so that'll be one to keep an eye on. But he is going through the Old Hall corner to start his lap now, heading down through the avenue onto the slight right-hand King Denton's as he tips it into a long left-hander by the name of Cascades. Keeps all four wheels pointing in the same direction for the most part. He just cuts a little bit of runoff there, just the perfect amount. Now he's heading down the Lakeside Straight past. You'd normally jump on the brakes and hang a right turn there, but we're going left into the island bend, into what is referred to as the island section of the circuit. He doesn't get as slippery this time, keeps it nice and controlled. A little bit of oversteer through the Shell Oils corner that tips off the island section, and now he's on his way to the fastest straight on the tracks. He's making his way up towards the hilltop now. He's probably getting close to a sector split. I haven't actually figured out where those sector splits are. Oh, he's already passed it a long time ago. He's over the hilltop now. 24.87. So he's heading into the Knickerbrook corner very sideways. Holds it together. Great stuff from Brenton Foley as he keeps pummeling down up towards Druids, the corner where he caught a bit of airtime. So he's going to see if we can hit those curbs again. Nope, keeps all four wheels on the ground. Yes, he does. So he keeps plugging it away. Oh, cops a bit of dirt there on the way out of the corner. He's making his way down towards the final bend now, which is Lodge Corner, the final full traditional bend. Oh, and he's thrown it away. He's rotated it at the Lodge Corner, and that's a shame. I was looking forward to seeing a time on the board. But we'll see what Ziras can do. He's going to be the first one across the line, and he was going to post a 1:32.225.
That is absolutely blistering. The fastest I think we saw in the practice session was a 33. I was actually sorry, it was a high 32, so he's absolutely obliterated that. Sam Smith has crossed the line with a 32.9, as we're seeing here a replay of Foley with that. That was on for that was going to be a spectacular lap until that very moment as he rotated it. So hopefully he can get out there and repeat the first 9/10 of that lap, and maybe not spin on the last corner on this particular occasion. He's not having a good go of it by the looks of it. He's all off and he's back to the garage, so probably ruined his tyres with that spin as well.
Maybe ruined his confidence a little bit as well. He would have thrown his lap away regardless because he would have compromised his run down the main straight. But Ziras is currently up on his first lap already. He was about a tenth and a half up at the first sector split, and he's just going through Knickerbrook now, so carrying a lot of speed through there. Just waiting to see what the next sector split will be, and he's down half a tenth, so it's marginal. Let's see what he can do in the third sector. This is the time when we start seeing which parts of the track these drivers are strong at, and which parts that they could possibly be caught up by. And Berto's spun out, and he's found himself in the pits.
Yeah, so not going well for my horse. If we're talking about the people that we picked for the pole position, I wonder if Ziras got a track cut for that. He was very far off. I know it is pretty forgiving. It looks like it wasn't a track cut, but he lost about 0.4 of a second going off so deep on the last corner. Who else? We've got Sam. Sorry, so we've got Sam up into third place. He's about 0.3 of a second back, and Goofball still sitting in that fourth place.
So we've just had Resist come up to fourth place now as he's crossed the line. So he's a little bit under half a second behind Sam Smith, so there's a bit of a gap there to the top three guys. And Sam Smith looked like he had something up his sleeve in that practice session, maybe sandbagging a little bit, and now he's letting his full potential fly in that Peugeot 406. He's just rounding the island bend now, and we're just trying to see Ziras. He's still in the pit lane at the moment. Berto's come back out almost immediately, so he needs to get quick times on the board as soon as he possibly can. And I'm just trying to find where Brenton Foley is. I think he's out on the track at the moment. He's just trying to start his fast lap now. So I'll be interested to see what Brenton Foley can do.
His last lap was a 2-minute and 4-second lap, so definitely not what he wants to do. It looks as if Sam has bailed out of his hot lap. He's gone back to the pits. I know he was quite disappointed with his pace last week. He wasn't quick enough to bother Berto and Ziras out front, but he was too quick for the guys behind, so he found himself I think he described the race as bloody boring. So let's hope for a more entertaining race for him in this particular occasion. Foley, as you can see on your screen there, is back on another faster lap. He hopes, anyway. He is in control at the moment, currently sitting 12th, which I doubt is where he's going to start the race.
I'd hope not. I really want to see him complete a lap, and he's got a bit of time to do that. We've got about 3 minutes and 20 seconds left in the session. So once he finishes this lap, he may have time for 2 more, and he's just copped the dirt quite a bit, so that may compromise him, but he looks to have just planted the foot. He's down less than 1/10 of a second, so not too bad considering at the moment.
Yeah, it looked like he managed to keep his foot in it as he copped the outside of the track there. Just have to see if his lap has been invalidated or not. I haven't seen him go through the second sector as yet, and he's actually rounding the last corner, so I feel as if his corner was invalidated, or his track lap was invalidated, and indeed it was. Right. So he has got everything to do to set a time in this qualifying session.
Looks to have got a bit hot through the first corner though, so I'm not sure what's happened there. And Berto's crashed, and he's missing his front bumper. He's trying to pull out onto the track one more time to get at least one more lap in. He wants to get that pole position badly, but let's see what he can do in that Renault. He was obviously very quick in the practice session, but now that qualifying pressure's on him, we'll have to see if he can find that extra 2.5 tenths to get past Ziras, providing
put off by Roadhog, I reckon, as Roadhog was on the left-hand side of the track, blocking up a little bit, and I think it might have just thrown Berto a bit. Missed his braking point and flew off into the runoff. Not good news for Berto, but good news for Ziras is that Ziras is currently up on his fastest time, so he's looking to extend his advantage at the front.
Foley, on the other hand, is definitely not. He's taken a big excursion through the grass, and he's got time to get around to the finish line for one more lap, and that'll be his last chance to make his way up into the pointy end of this starting grid.
Yeah, we've got 1 minute and 30 seconds left. That qualifying session went bloody quick. As it looks like everybody is out on track, so everybody should have the chance to... Sorry, Tyrrell is not out on track, so Tyrrell will not be able to complete another lap. Everybody else that's currently out, I think, should be able to get back around to start a fresh one.
And like you said, there's not a huge amount of competitors out on the track, so pretty much everyone seems to have some clear area in front of them, so my woes about traffic seem to have all been quashed.
So, my prize horse, Berto, is just coming down to finish his out lap. So he will be hoping for a decent lap. He's looking for 2.5 tenths, which is no small feat, to take that pole position off of Ziras. But at the moment, Ziras just seems to have everything in hand.
So, he was 200ths off in that last sector that he just did, so he's looking pretty good at the moment, but there's still a bit of a ways to go, as all the drivers now crossing the start-finish line to commence their final flying laps with 14 seconds to go. If you're anywhere, let's see who's in danger of not being able to make that threshold.
I reckon Sam Smith is not going to be able to make it. Currently sitting in 3rd place. He's just coming around the last corner now, so Sam is going to start from wherever that time puts him. He's not going to have the chance to improve it. Ziras is just coming around the last corner now, and he's done a Brenton Foley, and he's lit it up on the last corner, so that lap time won't be counted, or it won't be an improvement anyway. So it's all for Berto to improve during this lap. He is 2 thousandths up on his own time through the 2nd sector, but he is still 1.5 tenths down on Ziras's time, so it will take an almighty last sector for Berto to take pole position at this stage. Resist crosses the line, does not improve. A second shy of the leader Ziras. His actual time, 8 tenths of a second short. Berto crosses the line, does not improve, doesn't improve on his own time, and is still behind Ziras, so he will not be starting on pole for the first time this championship, as the only in 2 rounds, but still.
Brenton Foley's 4th.
Brenton Foley, he pulled out a lap time finally, so 31.7 seconds better than his personal best in this qualifying session. That's just an astronomical improvement, isn't it? That's a huge improvement. Bloody well done to Brenton Foley. I think everybody else who is out on track is just coasting. So it looks as if that is going to be our order for the race start. So Ziras takes the chocolates for the qualifying session here in round 2 with a 132.225. Berto unable to wrestle that off him, 2.5 tenths behind as we move on into a warm-up session.
So we'll just have a quick warm-up session before the race begins to allow the drivers to practice their race starts, get their last-minute practice in with a little bit more rubber on the track, and just try practicing methods that mean they're not going to crash into each other, basically. You might see a little bit of mayhem on the first corner as they do their first practice start, but it's just a way to get those sort of issues out of the way before we start the race proper. So, we're looking pretty good at the moment. Nice and tight margins at the front for qualifying. It's a very quick front row. We've got Ziras and Berto next to each other, with Sam Smith and Brenton Foley on the 2nd row. The regular stalwarts of speed here at Apex Rear Wing are looking to put on a pretty good show, Mad Bird. Who is your pick for race 1?
In the first race of round 1, Ziras just had the pace to keep himself ahead of Berto, although Berto was closing in the latter stages. So Berto seems to have the ability to just be consistent and just plug away, whereas Ziras is lightning quick. But he said in the interviews after the first race that he felt like he was getting panicked. He was getting a bit concerned by Berto's closing him in, which he said was quite unlike him. So we'll have to wait and see if he's able to, Berto that is, put the pressure and the moz on Ziras again this race.
I think Ziras will definitely up in the front running. He'll finish either 1st or 2nd, but I also think that Sam Smith is going to be in contention for most of this contest as well. We do like, it's almost a legal obligation for us to say every race that Sam Smith performs well with a carrot in front of him, as much as he doesn't like us using that analogy. And now that he's starting in third position, he's going to have a couple of carrots in front of him, so I reckon that'll be a pretty good incentive for him to keep pushing quickly, being able to follow the lead of the guys in front of him, and maybe he'll be able to make a slingshot in the closing stages to steal a podium or a race win. You never know. But for the safe race win bet, I'm going to go with Ziras.
That's again, safe as they say safe as houses. They should say safe as Ziras. He's it's not controversial to suggest that he will take out the race win, but I guess we'll have to wait and see as we see Roadhog's front bumper there phasing in and out of existence. It's not a perfect mod, is this, but you know, it does the job.
I'm not going to take any shame in making safe predictions. I'm practically wearing a seatbelt in my office chair as I speak, but I think I had a pretty good prediction record in the last couple of seasons against Stairs, so I'm sticking with it.
That's fair enough. And as you say, it's quite a tight track. There's not too many overtaking opportunities, so I expect we're going to see a fair bit of rubbing and door banging. As oh my goodness, so I was just watching the Sam Smith on the start-finish straight, and I think a few people didn't get the message that he had slowed down on the start-finish straight and came over that crest unsighted, and nearly there was several airplane accidents in a row, but lucky as we're seeing a replay here of Greg Turrer with some incredible evasion skills, avoiding the slowed down Desamage and Sam Smith. And it looks as if they're all lining up for one of our patented warm-up practice starts. It's a slightly wonky grid they've got lined up, but regardless, it's I guess it'll do the job. And the philosophy is always get the messy starts out of the way in warm-up, and then hopefully the race one will go without a hitch. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
A lot of wheel spin all around off that start, but they look to be pretty clean so far through turn one, so that's always a good sign.
It is Berto who's managed to get ahead of Ziras through turn one, although Ziras is now challenging him down the inside into Cascades. And a little bit of touching, but they managed to keep facing the right direction. As in the background, we see Zarlingir and Resist go flying off the track. Zarlingir recovers. No idea what happened to Ziras. Resist. I think he might have retired back to the garage. So, pretty clean, overall, pretty clean start with some close racing there between Ziras and Berto. So we can only hope that this happens in the race. Always feel like I said to Stairs last week. Do you, when you're watching these warm-up starts, Matty, do you feel like you're a little bit robbed when they're as exciting as they are, but they don't actually mean anything?
I don't think so at all. It's all part of the experience. Wow, Ziras! Yep, he's two wheels on his wagon. He's motorcycled straight off into the gravel.
And now looks like he's got a pretty cool body kit on the front of his car.
It does, doesn't it? It looks like he's taken that straight from the wreckers and just thrown primer on it with nothing else. So Sam Smith got caught up there as well, and he's lost some bodywork. And that's what I was talking about earlier with those curbs, especially that one at Druids. It'll trip you up very easily. You just got to hit it with just the right angle of attack and speed, and it'll just spear you off into the wall.
Well, speaking of, we saw in the reverse grid last round that this mod seems to have some slightly strange physics, as there was a very slight collision between Goofball Antics and Resist, and then shortly thereafter Goofball Antics and Ziras. And on both occasions, the car making contact with Goofball Antics' Alpha catapulted itself into the air and onto its roof. So we can hope that doesn't happen again, although it was incredibly exciting.
Alpha, he's back in Pog.
The Alfa Romeo.
Getting ready for another practice start. We've got a few other drivers just circulating the track on their own terms. Pretty poor start for the Alpha there. Actually, Goofball Antics has dropped back a little bit in the 155 and has allowed Roadhog. I mean, it's easy to say he's got a bad start when you're comparing it directly to Roadhog, who's in the four-wheel drive Audi, and he's just flying up the field now. He's right on Berto's bumper and all over Sam Smith as well.
He is, yeah. That just shows how when being able to turn all four wheels at once is somewhat of a strength of the four-wheel drive. Audi is in the background. Something goes flying off. I think that was some contact between D-Samaj and the Alpha of Goofball Antics.
I think that was Roadhog's rear bumper, actually. Now he's got a body kit on the rear of that thing.
My goodness. There's pieces flying off these cars left, right, and centre. And the
pieces flying off my brain as I'm trying to figure out what's happening here. Good thing it's only a practice start.
Considering I called Goofball Antics' car an Alpha, I think the majority of my brain has flown off somewhere as we're rubbing between Sam Smith and Berto on the run down hilltop. Very close between the two former teammates in the DRMs. Sam Smith directly off and into the wall, as is most other people by the looks of it. Watching Roadhog, who's just recovering to the track with Zarling gear. But we've got a replay there of it was Roadhog's rear bumper pirouetting off. It's actually quite beautiful in a way.
I think the lesson from the attempt that we saw from Sam Smith there. Oh, that's a beautiful shot. Well done. The attempt from Sam Smith as he spears directly into the wall, loses both his front wheels, his bumper, and probably his life if it was real life. The lesson to be learned from the movie tried around the outside of Knickerbrook is don't. Because you're going to end up in the gravel. There's really not much runoff there, and you'll hit the fence as well. So that's going to be a prime overtaking spot. Keep your eyes out for that one, folks. Off that massive back straight, going over the hilltop into Knickerbrook is where you're going to see a lot of action.
I reckon it replaced the word action with carnage, and I think you're correct. Those fast right-handers of Knickerbrook and Druids, I think, are going to... I think someone's going to try to go side by side through there, and it's going to go horribly for the both of them. We've got just under 3 minutes remaining in this warm-up session, so people doing probably toddling off to the loo for a last-minute emptying of liquid or solid, indeed, waste.
A splash and dash, if you will.
Splash and dash. Ziras just circulating like the Terminator that he is. We might actually, since we've got a couple of minutes, we might as well have a quick pit stop ourselves. Don't go anywhere. We will be back in just over 2 minutes with the start of race 1, round 2.
Tonight we race at Oulton Park, a circuit full of elevation changes, fast corners, and blind crests. And of all the corners with interesting stories to tell, few are as unique as Oulton Park's Knickerbrook corner. Derek McIntosh Bates, an English explosives and demolition expert who went by the name of Blaster Bates, would tell you the story of how the corner got its name. Whilst removing tree stumps near the corner with dynamite one day, Blaster and his colleague noticed a semi-clad couple fleeing into the distance from the banks of a nearby creek. Naturally, a minor investigation took place, where Blaster discovered a pair of ladies' underpants floating in the cool northwest English waters. From that time on, the corner would be known as Knickerbrook. It's also a wicked cool corner.
Hello everybody, welcome back to round 2 of the Automobilista Apex Rear Wing Season 9 season? The 9th season of Apex Rear Wing in Automobilista. Let me just redo that sentence again. We are here at Oulton Park, so we have got about a minute to go until race 1 begins. 14 laps, just over 60 kilometers, and the order of which determines the order for the second race, which is a reverse grid. So 2 equal distance races, both 14 kilometers, 14 laps even, 60 kilometers, and you have to finish 11 laps to be classified. I am joined by Maddie, who I should have introduced much earlier after the break. Hello, Maddie.
Hello, Mad Bird. It's all right. I forgive you, mate. It's good to be with you. Now, this is going to be a fantastic race, folks. Do not... if you haven't boiled the kettle yet, you've made an error. We've got a little bit of time left, so it's going to be a little bit of time. I think we're going to have a warm-up lap and some gridding up to do. So if you want to make a really speedy cuppa, go now. But otherwise, plant your backside in your seat and just strap yourself in, because this is going to be a cracker of a race. 15 points are on offer for the winner here, with 12 points going to second place. So this would be a handy time for a championship points leader, who may or may not be named Berto, to continue pulling out an advantage over Ziras, who has pole position here. So obviously there's a lot to play for here at the front of the field, but we're going to be seeing some really good midfield battles here as well, because all these cars are so evenly matched, Madbert.
They are indeed. And as you say, Ziras has actually already trimmed the lead of Berto down by 1 point with that pole position. There are, of course, 1 point on offer each main feature race for the pole position sitter, which in this case is Ziras, as you called yourself before qualifying. So very well done yourself. You don't win anything for it, but other than bragging rights, I guess.
I'll take some personal pride and I'll go to bed with that. It will help me sleep at night, and that's all that matters, I think. So we're just getting ready now. The warm-up session is officially finished and we're starting to see some cars appear on the grid. Once we get all the vehicles on here, we will have a parade lap, a formation lap, and then the race will be getting underway proper.
Absolutely. So we've got our 12 runners here tonight. It was a pretty close qualifying session, but Ziras had a 2.5 lead over second place man Berto, who still hasn't come out onto the track, and will probably want to do that, because if he doesn't, then he will be starting from the grid, from the pits rather.
We're waiting for Berto, we're waiting for, there we go, I think everyone's up here now.
Yep, everyone is on the grid. He must have gotten out at the exact last moment he could have. Ziras flashing the lights, as is Tyrrell in the background there. A lot of light flashing going on now. Now Resist.
A few horns blaring as well. I imagine Goofball Lances is responsible for a lot of those, as he usually is.
They've figured it out. They know we can hear them. And we are off on our warm-up lap. So Ziras with pole position for the first race. He is in the BMW with a win and a disappointing fourth for him in the reverse grid last round. Can he improve this time around and take out 2 wins in a row? Berto was looking good for the pole position, but just could not get a clean lap together during qualifying, and starts out from second. Can he put the moz on Ziras and put the pressure on, as he did in the first race last round, and take that win? Sam Smith found last round boring because he was sort of in no man's land in terms of pace. Let's hope that he's either fast enough to battle with those ahead or slow enough to battle with those behind. Speaking of those behind, we have Brenton Foley, who only just managed to qualify, and qualify he did in 4th place with a solid lap. Says he's not comfortable in these cars, but 4th place in qualifying would suggest that he's fairly comfortable. Have to wait and see how he does. Resist had a frustrating race in the first race last round. Was stuck behind Brenton Foley, who is behind once again, and was just unable to get past him through the first opening lap, and opening few laps rather, and lost out to those ahead. Goofball Antics in the Alfa Romeo. It's quite a hideous car, I've told him, but don't tell him I said that. He didn't have a good time last round, and indeed he's not having a good time now. He's taken out a turn indicator, which I'm sure everyone's going to be very happy about. He's got the Roman numerals of 3 on his car. Love it. He rage quit out of the second race last round after causing a couple of accidents, although I'm not sure how much it was his fault. Behind him we have Desamaj, who had a fantastic scrapper with Netherelmian last round, and Zarlingir, Resist's new recruit. Greg Turro joining us for the first time this season in the Repsol Racing Volvo, as they all check up behind each other, getting to their grid slots. Netherelmian, who by his own admission has not had much practice for this round. Let's see how he can do. Roadhog in the 4-wheel drive Audi, starting from 11th, but with the 4-wheel drive, might manage to make him a few positions off the start. And Tyrrell rounding out our grid. Only just got there, Matty.
Only just got there. Perfect timing, mate. The lights are on. I'll leave it to you.
And lights are out, so Ziras with a good start. And he has, with that BMW rear-wheel drive, he's managed to get out ahead. It's almost 3 wide behind them. Sam Smith looks like he's made the position over Berto, and Brenton Foley might have done as well. No, he hasn't. So Berto's managed to hold on to it. No, Brenton Foley coming down the outside of both of them and almost takes the position over Sam Smith. Does he? He's around the outside going through Cascades, and he looks like he's been run wide. So he is in 3rd place behind Sam Smith, but it's a close thing.
very close indeed. He's side by side with Sam Smith once again as they go into the island bend, and he's just had to back off a little bit there to let Sam Smith through. But Berto is all over the back of him. He's up the inside now. Oh, he's almost rear-ended Sam Smith, and he's shot that very wide. So Brenton Foley's going to jump right back up the inside there. Take that spot back almost. No, Berto's got very good drive out of that corner, so he's going to have the position heading down the straight over the hilltop.
Yeah, that was very, very close to being a horrible accident going into the Shell Oils corner, but it looks like he managed to pull it up in time. Brenton Foley going for the inside, going down into Knickerbrook. We suggested that it would be a horrible plane accident if someone tried to make the overtake there, and it looks like he's thought better of it, and he's pulled in behind Berto as they head on down to Druids.
Looks like everyone thought better of it. Single file through that corner we had, so we're just trying to see everyone file through Druids. Once again, single file. I think Decimage was having a little bit of a look on Roadhog there, but nothing doing as a few drivers are taking to the dirt on the exit. So a bit of rally driving happening in the background, and there's a couple of moves on Decimage. Decimage is really trying to get past Roadhog, but he's just not able to, as Berto has pulled a pretty steady gap on Brenton Foley.
Yeah, so Brenton having to lift out, I think, going into Knickerbrook is just throwing him off a little bit. He's now got Resist right up his chuff, which was the case for the first race last round, and Goofball Antics and the Alfa Romeo right behind Resist. So quite close there. That's going to be a good tussle for fourth place at this stage. Out ahead, Sam Smith is managing to keep ahead of Berto just, but Berto seems to be closing in that gap.
They're still keeping Ziras in touching distance for the time being, but all the biffing and barging and passing and reshuffling that we saw in that upper echelon of the field has just allowed Ziras in first place to streak away as he normally does. His textbook manoeuvre, just getting in the front and staying there for the most part of the race. But we know Sam Smith is a quick driver, so let's see what he can do. We're still single file for the most part through here, but Goofball Antics is all over the back of Resist's Honda, and he may be looking to make a move into Knickerbrook. He's already trying to pull up the inside of him. Let's see what happens here.
I think he's thought better of it. Yep, he pulls in behind the Honda Accord of Resist. He's side by side though, going down and into Clay Hill and Water Tower. He's trying to get the job done before Druids, I think. He's well and truly on the inside of the track, and Resist almost losing control around the outside, but manages to hold on to that fifth position. And Brenton Foley getting a bit of a break up ahead. Resist was right up his arse at the start of this lap, but with them tussling over that position, Brenton Foley is stretching out a bit. Looks like Berto's made the move. He's gotten up into second place, so that didn't last long. Sam Smith now has it all to do trying to retake that second position over the Renault there of Berto.
You can expect to see Sam Smith glued all over the bumper of that Renault Laguna as they make their way through these next sequence of corners. We already have our first DNF of the race, Greg Tara, currently sitting in the garage, unfortunately. So that brings our runners down to 11 as it stands at the moment. Ziras has a gap over Berto of about just over a second, so hasn't been able to claw out too much of a margin in these opening laps. Wow, Sam Smith
on his roof.
Unbelievable.
He's flown right off the track at I think that was Island Bend. He's trying to rejoin at the hairpin. Not a great idea, but I guess he doesn't really have too much of a choice. He manages to find a couple of seconds there to squeeze himself back into ninth place. Just got up on two wheels and then didn't quite get onto his roof, but definitely lost out in a big way. He'd probably have some damage. That looked like a hefty impact with the wall.
So that pops Brenton Foley into third place and into the podium positions by default, and he's got lots of breathing air around him as well, so he's looking pretty secure there unless he makes an error, but he's looking pretty safe and sound at the moment. Berto, meanwhile, is just under a second behind Ziras, so he is clawing that deficit back.
Yeah, it's important that he got past Sam Smith as fast as he did, because he like we saw in the first race of last round, he was eking that gap back to Ziras just consistently throughout the last third of the race, and Ziras was getting shaken. So if he keeps seeing Berto closing that gap by a tenth a lap, then Ziras might get a little bit flustered, which we're not used to seeing from Ziras, but seems to be happening so far in this season.
He's normally rock solid under pressure, but you never know what can happen, and we'll have to see what happens with Berto, who we know is incredibly quick in pretty much everything, especially these Renaults. Once he is able to find himself on the back, the margin is still sitting around about a second as it stands at the moment. But we'll see how that affects once we go through the island hairpin, which has a lot of varied lines that drivers take, some for the better, some for the worse, of course, with a bit of marbling on the outside of the racing line as well. and we've only seen the gap come down about 0.5 of a second, so it's still negligible at the moment. Ziras still holding a steady gap of about a second at the front. Brenton Foley doing his best to try and push up and get closer to the back of Berto.
Absolutely. So further down in the order, we've got Resist still with Goofball Antics. Oh no! Poor Goofball up on 2 wheels, and he's lost it as soon as we've cut to him to talk about him. He has had a fairly significant accident. He's down into 6th place. He's going to lose that to Nether. There it goes. And he might lose more places. He has to Roadhog and Sam Smith. So Goofball Antics now in 9th place. That's a damn shame. That was looking like a tasty scrap for 4th position with Resist. Hopefully he can claw his way back up, or otherwise there's always the reverse grid as Berto sets the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, talking about clawing their way back up, the gap is 0.6 of a second now at the front, so either Berto's had an absolute flyer, which he has, setting the fastest lap, but also I suspect that Ziras has had a little bit of an error somewhere, which has allowed him to catch up onto the back. Yeah,
it seems like Berto just has a lot more control. There's Ziras is quick, but he's locking up into a lot of braking zones. He seems to be getting a little bit leery, a little bit sideways here and there. Whereas Berto, that Renault Laguna just looks absolutely planted. Especially like coming into here, look, Ziras almost sideways, kicking the back out a little bit as Berto just completely planted, smooth and steady, and he is catching at a rate of knots onto the back of that BMW.
We know that Renault can get a huge amount of drive out of that corner as well. So he's not able to do much to here at Knickerbocker. There's still a bit of a gap of 0.5 of a second. And we're just trying to see a little bit further back. Brenton Foley getting a little bit sideways there. His gap is around 2.8 seconds. So he's very, very slowly gaining ground on the guys in front of him. But we're getting very close at the front. The gap's down to about 0.5 a second, which makes it practically negligible at this point. So Berto is well in touch of the draft of Ziras in front of him, and he could start challenging for position around corners pretty soon as they make the way to the final end.
Absolutely, but Ziras gone very wide there on the last corner, so that won't be helping his run down to the first turn, as Berto is all over the back of him. The gap is now down to 0.2 of a second, and you can see how close it is. He's almost pushing him along the straight. As they go through that first corner, again, Berto just nice and planted, stays on the track, maybe a little bit of curb, whereas Ziras is all the way out on the runoff, and that is all going to be time that he's bleeding off. He's not managing to keep his gap up, rather. He's that's sort of just come down steadily. We're only on lap 6, so not even half distance, and the gap has come down from over a second to 0.2 in that amount of time. The gap is very wide, but it seems to get a good drive off this corner.
Yeah, the gap is practically academic at this point when the guys are still so close together. But yeah, he does go very wide. I think it's a late apex that he tries to take through this bend to give himself the best run possible up this very long straight. And he's just having a look. As we go back further into the grid, we've got Sam Smith making his way back up to P6. He's just gone past Nether, but he's got a gap of 5.3 seconds in front of him. So with 8 laps to go, that's a lot of work for him to get through, and he may have to settle for 6th unless some of the drivers in front make mistakes.
Another driver making their way up through the field is Goofball Antics, who had his error. He's currently alongside Zalingir, heading up towards Knickerbocker, but thinks better of it and slots in behind Zarling as they go through the right-hander. And Zarlingir, second race with us, and he's holding his own against nearly champion Goofball Antics. A horrible accident. I've just heard a crash. It looks like Sam Smith. Sam Smith is off the track, and he's broken off the front of his car. So you were just saying that it was going to be a lot of work for him to get any higher than 6th. At this stage, it's going to be a lot of work for him to get any higher than 11th. He has lost his front splitter. Not sure if that was a unforced error. I reckon he might have just been pushing a little bit too hard. Berto all off the track as he's trying to get onto the back of Ziras. I mean, he's already on the back of Ziras. He's trying to get past Ziras. And this might be a good opportunity down into the hairpin. Ziras seems to get a little bit sideways, although he stays very tight on the apex. But Berto seems to get a better run out of the corner.
Big shame for Sam Smith there, but that does mean if he's able to finish this race, that'll put him in the box seat, pole position for the next race.
Speaking of, here's the replay of Sam Smith having the accident. So it looks like he was battling with Nether over that 6th place. Must have had an error somewhere that caused Nether to catch back up and just went wide straight onto the grass and into the runoff, and then therein into the wall. So Sam Smith currently sitting down in 11th place, about 20 seconds down on the next place man. Although Nether has also had an accident, is recovering back to the track, is in 10th, and Sam Smith about to maybe make that position, and indeed he does. So also calamities for Nether. So it's been an attritional race so far for some of our more consistent, usually, runners.
It certainly has, and Brenton Foley's still trying to maintain that same gap to the front guys. It's around about 3 seconds, but he is getting pretty slippery, and Berto's caught back up to Ziras, who's had a big lock up in the first corner, and that's put Berto right in the box seat. He's going to be all over him for this second bend, trying to find a gap, but Ziras is going to be defending feverishly to make sure that Renault stays behind him.
He absolutely is. He runs wide. Berto could have slipped up the inside there, but just wasn't close enough and didn't have the drive. Ziras is doing a very good job of defending on this BMW, which at the moment he seems to be slower, but there's just nowhere that Berto can find a space to squeeze his nose up through. He thought about it just then into the hairpin, but then thought better of it. But he's got a better drive coming out of the hairpin. He's all over the back of Ziras. He's 2 tyres on the grass trying to get to the inside coming up Hilltop. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get side by side before Knickerbocker, although he's going to try to.
He tried to make an attempt at the draft there, but nothing doing at this point. And the pass into Knickerbrook isn't going to happen, so they both just fly through there. The next opportunity for them is going to be Druids. So, he's so quick, isn't he? He's just all over the back, getting very wobbly. Try not to catch the bumps like Sam Smith did, because it's a very bumpy part of the track there.
Sorry, we've got a massacre happening at Shell Oil's corner, the hairpin. Both Tyrrell and Zarlingier off. Tyrrell stuck in a wall by the looks of it with some heavy damage. Zarlingier is recovered. There you can see the stricken Tyrrell. But we've got Ziras.
Back to the front.
Yep, Berto alongside Ziras, trying to get the job done going into the first corner. But I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to. Nope, Ziras cuts off his nose and manages to make the corner the best that he has for a few laps, I reckon. And Berto's just desperate, trying to get that position done. They've got 5 laps left.
Ziras is worried because he knows that Berto is just marginally quicker around this track, and he's trying his best to defend as hard as he can. And for the most part, it's working, but this is going to be where we see if Ziras is going to crack under pressure, or maybe if Berto's got something saved up his sleeve for later in the race. It's a tough place to try and pass here, but he's having a look up the inside, and he just touches his rear quarter. There's no spinning, no dramatic contact or anything like that, but geez, he gave it a red-hot crack, didn't he?
He absolutely did. We've got a yellow flag coming out of the hairpin, and that is for Tyrrell, who is sitting stricken by the side of the road with his engine on fire. So I dare say that the Tyrrell BMW will be our second DNF of the race, and it is indeed just occurred. So damn shame there for Tyrrell. But at the moment, Ziras has extended his advantage after that tangle at the hairpin. Now a better part of half a second over Berto, but as we've seen, Berto seems to be able to claw that back in rapid succession.
Yeah, that gap seems to go up and down quite flexibly, so there's every chance that Berto could be right on the bumper of Ziras by the time they make their way to the start-finish straight. And it looks like Berto's gap is down to 2 seconds. Oh, he's had a big slide there, though, so that might drop his time back a little bit. But, sorry, Brenton Foley's gap on Berto. So it looks like, and that's the fastest lap of the race, 132.171 from Brenton Foley, so you know he's
that is a blistering lap. So he's obviously got it in him, whether he feels comfortable in the cars or not. We've got a replay here of Zarlingier going off at the hairpin as well, directly into the wall. That was a heavy impact. That would have set the airbags off. He has DNF'd from the race. We've got 3 of our 12 runners out, so quite attritional. As you said, Brenton Foley only about 2 seconds down on Berto, and Berto a tyre in the grass, and he's straight off and into the runoff area. I was about to say that Brenton Foley was keeping himself nicely in touch in case there was any issues ahead. He could swoop through and into the second or first place, and he has indeed done that before I could even say it. He read my mind. Now Resist is up into 3rd place on the podium.
Brenton Foley drifted through the Shell Oil's corner going, thank you very much, I will take P2. And now he just got to sit there. He's able to just stay on the track that we've seen so far. I had some worries about him because we were saying he's not very comfortable with these cars. I had some worries about him cracking under pressure, but because he's in such clean air, he's able to just put in consistent, solid lap times, and he's been able to just plug away That's how he got the fastest lap, and that's how he found himself benefiting from that unfortunate moment from Berto. Now he's in P2, and we do have Resist in the Honda Accord sitting in P3. Berto's fallen back to 4th position, and he's got a lot of work to do.
It was a close call there between Goofball Antics in the Alpha and Roadhog in the Audi, who nearly came to blows going through Knickerbrook, but ended up coming to nothing. So Goofball Antics having a race to forget at the moment, although at least he's still in the race. Sam Smith has recovered up to 8th position, mainly due to 2 other runners DNFing. Netherelmian down in 9th place, currently the last of our runners. But again, still in the race, still scoring points. Points go down to 10th this season. Historically, we've had points go down to 15th. So any finish from 10th and up is valuable points if you've got people that DNF or don't classify in later races. Goofball Antics has made that position by the looks of it going into the Cascades. Not sure what's going on with Roadhog. He looked like he was all over the show. He's managed to keep it on the track, but he just does not seem to have the pace compared to Goofball Antics.
There was great stability there from Goofball Antics as he was trying to make that pass around the outside. So he really knows how to handle that Alpha. It's just a matter of trying to make his way back up into the pointy end of the field. Just finishing in 6th position won't do him too many favours because he'll start from pretty much the same part of the track for race 2 with the reverse grid. So carrying that forward momentum is going to be important in race 2 to get some more points on the board.
It's a very good point, actually. The 3 drivers who have DNF'd, Greg Tyrrell and Zarlinger, DNF'd on laps 1, 7 and 8 respectively, so none of them are actually classified as finishers for this race. So despite finishing technically at the bottom of the field, they are also going to be starting from the bottom of the field because they are not actually, they haven't completed the requisite race distance to be considered for the reverse grid race. So they will be starting from the back of the field in the reverse grid race. So just to add insult to injury, rub some salt in those wounds. They don't even get a free kick in the second race for their troubles.
Oh, I'm just watching Ziras making his way into the Shell Oils corner, clipping a couple of curbs with the left-hand side, with the opposite side of the car, I should say, loaded right up, and geez, the thing just nearly rotates on him. It really makes me, oh, Brenton Foley's taken to the grass. There you go, he just one-upped me. So there's a bit of a gap opened up now. 3.3 seconds, or roughly speaking, is the margin between the 2 BMWs at the front. We've got 2 laps left, unless Ziras makes an error somewhere. Oh, a bit of time on 2 wheels there. That's going to slow him down through Knickerbrook, but unless he makes more errors like that, I can't imagine he's going to find himself anywhere but the top step at the end of this race.
Unless dearest Ziras makes any errors. Yeah, Brenton Foley is he's got 8 seconds behind. He's got an absolute acre behind him to resist, about 8 seconds. So he's got plenty of time if he wants to just ease off a little bit and just bring this one home, which I don't think anyone would blame him for. Driving dangerously at this stage when the only man ahead of you is Ziras is probably not worth the risk. Resist at the moment probably just can't believe his luck. He's got Berto 2 seconds behind him, which I reckon Berto is faster than Resist, but not that much faster. I think that that third place is out of reach for Berto at this stage.
Yeah, I think that gap's been pretty consistent for Berto and Resist in the last few laps. So Resist in the Honda Accord for Black Flag Industries Racing is looking very solid indeed. He's on track to get a podium, and it's going to be a great result for him.
We just got Goofball Antics taking that position over Roadhog again, so they must have been having a bit of a scrap the last couple of laps while we've been having a look at the pointy end of the field. Speaking of the midfield, Decimage sitting in. Oh, Berto's off the track. Berto's well and truly off the track, going through the Cascades. Going through Island Bend. So he had a big excursion off the track. So Resist now well and truly off the hook for that third position.
He's going to spear into the fence now. You said that.
Yeah, I should be careful with what I said after the last round, where I think at least 3 times I wrapped a driver up, and before I'd even finished speaking, they had destroyed their race. So let's hope that I don't repeat my performance. As I was about to say, Decimage has just kept his nose clean, and he's sitting pretty in 5th with 11 seconds ahead of him and 15 seconds behind him. So the Peniston Oils entry is doing quite well for himself.
So the last lap is now underway. Ziras has crossed the control line, and he's just got to keep his nose clean as well. He's been getting a little bit slippery here and there around the track in that rear-wheel drive BMW 318. But if anyone knows how to put down a safe lap and just bring it home, it's Ziras. So let's see what he can do. Brenton Foley is 5.7 seconds back, and he's rotated it. He's spun out. Resist has got 4 seconds, 3 seconds. I don't think he's going to fix it up in time. Resist is going to find himself up into P2. There he goes. So that is... Berto's going to make his way back into the podium spots as well. We didn't see that coming, did we?
Oh, Foley, he got it slightly on the grass, I think, as he was braking for the corner, and it just completely rotated his car. You can see I think, maybe got on the marbles a little bit, but just one of his right-hand tyres as he was going into the corner and just completely rotated it. He's still in 4th, and he should be safe with that, with these Smash 2 seconds behind. But what a free kick for Berto to get back on the podium at the absolute death. Ziras coming through, coming down towards Druids, and the last couple of corners on the racetrack. Oh, sorry, yes, going through Druids now, heading down towards Lodge and the last corner as we speak. So, pretty unflapped was Ziras. He had Berto chasing him down throughout the entire race, pretty much, until he sent himself off at the hairpin. But Ziras put up with the pressure, and he has rewarded himself with an excellent race 1 win here at round 2. And his brother, Resist, taking home a richly deserved podium, has kept his nose clean throughout the entire race, and with a spin from Foley, has promoted him up into 2nd at the death. And Berto, who probably wasn't expecting to be on the podium after his couple of adventures, finds himself on the podium as well.
I think Resist and Berto are going to be off to buy themselves lottery tickets after the luck they've experienced. Brenton Foley did in fact finish the race in 4th with decent match in P5. Goofball is going to come across the line now to take position 6 with quite a margin actually. It's ended up being about 3 seconds over Roadhog, so Goofball was able to pull away quite well. Sam Smith is going to finish this race, so he's going to be in the box seat for race 2. He's going to be carrying speed right out of the box, and he's going to be challenging for the lead, at least in the early stages, hopefully all the way through. 9th place will be Netherrealmian, who's still going through Druids now, so he's got a bit to go. But he will cross the line in 9th, provided he doesn't bin it before then. But he will still be classified, won't he?
Yeah, absolutely. So he will be the pole position sitter for the reverse grid race, with Zarlinger, Tyrrell and Greg Turra starting from the rear due to their DNFs before they were classified. Apparently we're getting information through that Foley's issue was that his game froze mid-corner, which is why he spun. So that's an incredible shame for the man who looked like he was going to get an unlikely podium. But speaking of podiums, Matty, I think you've got the podium sitters there with you.
I certainly do. Let's start with the 3rd place getter, Berto. Were you expecting to find yourself back on the podium after the events happening, the later stages of that race?
Not really. No, no. That was capitalising on Brenton's bad luck there. So yeah, look, he was performing well enough to get a podium. So that sucks.
But regardless, you were driving very, very well. You were glued to the back bumper of Ziras for the entire early and mid stages of that race, and you looked like you had the car completely dialed in, getting really good runs out of the Shell Oils hairpin as well. How are you feeling carrying that sort of ability into race 2? Do you reckon you'll be able to push up and make your way into the pointy end of the race?
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see how the pack shakes out. It's a tight track. There's not many passing opportunities, so yeah, it might be survival of the fittest for race 2.
Best of luck with them, mate. Thank you very much, and congratulations on the podium. We move on now to Resist. Well done, mate. That sort of dropped out of the sky and landed in your hands, but not because of your driving abilities, because that was a fantastic race from you. You kept your nose out of trouble the whole race, and you found yourself in P2 as a result. Congratulations, mate.
Thank you. Yeah, that was sort of the plan, I guess, knowing there's not a lot of overtaking opportunities, just to weather the storm and see how it did.
Well, you'll be starting from very near the back of the grid. You'll have about 4 cars behind you to start the race. Do you reckon you'll be able to push up from the midfield and make your way up?
See how we go. It's going to be a bit chaotic, especially during the early stages while we're all together, but looking forward to a bit of a scrap.
All the best, mate. Congratulations again on P2. And now, Ziras, race 3 of the season. Your race winner, ladies and gentlemen. Following on from pole position as well. Great stuff, Ziras. Congratulations. And you look to have a bit of a couple of hairy moments there. I saw you clip a couple of curbs and nearly slip out. How are you finding the rear-wheel drive BMW around this track?
Well, it's extremely slippery, and you got to be. I've set up my car to be sort of lighter on the brakes, because something we found last week was I'm just locking up so much, which means I am at a bit of a disadvantage on the brakes. So Berto was just catching lap after lap pretty much in the braking zones, and managed to keep him behind me until he made a mistake, which is a bit unfortunate, but that's racing. I wanted to race him more.
Well, you'll have a great chance to both try and cut through the field together for race 2. But because of your result and because of the pole position, you are now leading the championship by 1 point over Berto, 39 points to 38. So it looks like this battle is going to be raging on you. There's everything to play for, mate.
That's juicy.
It's very juicy indeed. Best of luck. Congratulations again on the race win, and we'll see you next race on Oulton track.
Good, bloody good race, Matty. That was some drama right at the death, and very, very close up at the pointy end of the field for almost the entire race.
It's always good to see a bit of drama. We were talking about that earlier, weren't we? We're going to see either some great passing or some mayhem and some chaos. There looks to be a little bit more mayhem there, but never a bad thing. It really throws the competition wide open, and it's showing us who's able to keep these cars under control, under pressure, and who is starting to crack a little bit. So that gives us a bit of a clear idea of who's got a good grasp on these cars. But Brenton Foley seems to be a lot more comfortable with these vehicles than we thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't expecting him to be anywhere near as quick as he was. Fastest lap, I think, in the end.
I think it was Berto who nabbed that fastest lap, but for a while there, Brenton Foley, I got there eventually, was on the charge, and he had that fastest lap out of nowhere when he was sitting back in 3rd or 4th, I think it was.
Yeah, and he would have been stoked with that podium position as well, so that is a damn shame that it seems like a technical issue robbed him of it, but he got a podium in the reverse grid last round, so I guess we'll have to wait and see if he gets one this round as well.
Well, clean slate for all the drivers who are rolling around in damaged cars at the end of that one, and there'll be a little bit more experience on hand as well in knowing which curbs to avoid, which bumps to be careful over, and we do of course have the reverse grid.
Absolutely. I think we're going to have a quick little pit stop before we get into that, so don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back with race 2, the reverse grid, here at Oulton Park.
Tonight we race at Oulton Park, a circuit full of elevation changes, fast corners and blind crests. And of all the corners with interesting stories to tell, few are as unique as Oulton Park's Knickerbrook Corner. Derek McIntosh Bates, an English explosives and demolition expert who went by the name of Blaster Bates, would tell you the story of how the corner got its name. Whilst removing tree stumps near the corner with dynamite one day, Blaster and his colleague noticed a semi-clad couple fleeing into the distance from the banks of a nearby creek. Naturally, a minor investigation took place, where Blaster discovered a pair of ladies' underpants floating in the cool northwest English waters. From that time on, the corner would be known as Knickerbrook. It's also a wicked cool corner.
Yes. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to round 2 of season 9 of Apex Rear Wing. We are here for race number 2, reverse grid from the results of the first race. So same length, 14 laps, just over 60 kilometers, and we will be in reverse grid order of the results from the first round. First race even. I am here with Matty Dunlop, and we just got treated to a pretty dramatic end to the first race. Let's wait and see if race 2 will give us as much entertainment, Matty.
Well, on paper, it's almost bound to, isn't it, with the reverse grid format? We've got those 4 guys who are dicing it up. the 4 quickest guys, Sam Smith, Berto, Brenton Foley, Ziras, are all going to be starting back at the pointy end of the field. So the other pointy end of the field, I should say, the back, if you will. So they're going to have their work.
End of the field.
That's the one. We'll call it the blunt end of the field. They're going to have their work cut out for them, trying to make their way back up past all the traffic. And there may be some unfortunate mayhem there, which of course is the beauty of the reverse grid format. It really tests their ability to cut through traffic, as opposed to sitting at the front and dominating for the whole race weekend.
Absolutely. We did see in the in round 1, we saw that it didn't take Berto any length of time to find his way to the front of the field. He did it by the end of the first lap. So Silverstone International is a bit more of a friendly track for overtaking, whereas as our racers all just said, not many opportunities here at Oulton Park. So it might well be a little bit trickier for the front runners to make their way up the grid. And of course, we do have Sam Smith, who through no fault of his own ended up right at the tail end of the field in the first race, and he's bloody quick at the best of times. So he's almost got a free kick to get into the lead early in the race and try to build a gap.
Yeah, he'll be the benchmark for the early pace in this race, and it'll be interesting to see how well the midfield and the back guys can stick onto his rear bumper, and also how quickly some of those faster guys at the back can make their way up as well, because I highly doubt that Sam Smith's going to be dropping back anytime soon. Of course, one of the quickest guys going around. He won't have that carrot in front of him. I'm going to start high-fiving myself every time I say that, I think. But we saw he was quick in qualifying, so we know he's got single lap pace, and without a car in front of him to race against, we know he'll be able to carry that over into this, the early stages of this, and just keep plugging out fast laps. So I'm going to call, I'm going to call Sam Smith for the victory here.
Ooh, that's bold. I don't know if I can go past Berto. I know I said that last time around, and I was wrong. But you've got to go down with your ship, and in this case, my ship is the SS Berto, and I'm hoping that he's going to find his way up through the field as he did last round, and take the chocolates in the reverse grid race. We've got some slightly messy driving going on out as they do their warm-up lap. A couple of people flying off the track. We've just got replay here of Berto, my ship, my noble vessel Berto, flying off at the hairpin and directly into the wall as I was presumably talking about him, and resist parking himself perfectly right behind him. That was a work of art.
Just the sort of stuff you want to see in the warm-up, as Berto is replicating his form at the Shell Oils corner there and just spearing off into the track. That's a very mean thing for me to say. I take that back immediately. We all know Berto's a very good driver, and he's just caught out by some bad luck there as he caught the dirt with his wheel. And that's one of the other things about having such a narrow circuit here, is you're never too far away from the grass, are you? So you really have to be careful where you're placing your vehicle in the braking zones.
Yeah, absolutely. Each of the corners has got a bit of a runoff area that I'm not even sure what you call the surface of it, but there's sort of like a mesh, like a curbing mesh stuff that extends out into the grass a little bit, which gives you a little bit of grip, a little bit more grip than just plain old grass. But absolutely, as you say, if you dip a tire in a braking zone, then your car is most likely going to be facing the wrong direction coming out.
You've got a bit of a chance to recover some of these front-wheel drives, but not very much at all. Of course, being front-wheel drive, you do have the ability to just throw it into opposite lock and plant your foot down and the hope that the car corrects itself, but you have to be a very skilled driver to be able to do that. And if you do dip a wheel in the dirt in one of these rear-wheel drive machines, well, you just got to sort of jump on the brakes and hold on, don't you, like Brenton Foley. Although he didn't dip his wheel and he had a technical issue, which we hope won't be replicated in race 2. We want to see him do well and push his way up into the podium spots. But with sim racing, these technical issues can happen, and it's something you have to be ready to grin and bear.
Yeah, real life racing have got, punctures, MGUV failures, or whatever the thing is in Formula One, all sorts of technical gremlins that can occur. Sim racing is no different. It just sort of, the issues are probably a lot less expensive, but nevertheless can be crushing to those competing in the simulated race.
Speaking of crushing, Geese Imagine just crushed a fence in his car, and he's back in the pit lane in the Peugeot 406, and he'll be heading out again soon, I imagine.
pretty decent. I do want to draw attention to Decimage and thus obviously guarantee his DNFing in the second race. He was pretty consistent, and he was pretty consistent in the first race, and just quietly plugging along took home that 5th place finish, which I think he'll be quite happy with. I don't think he's gotten much practice in. To make a bold statement as we watch Decimage fly off the track, and that was a hefty impact with some lovely slow motion there. My goodness, he is deceased. But luckily, there's no lives in Automobilista, so he is back in the car and out on the track again. As I was saying, to make a bold statement and to bet against the odds, Greg Turra, I'm calling him to classify in this race, which so far he has a 100% DNF record with Apex rear wing. So
Jeez, that's pretty dangerous.
No shade to Greg Turra. He's a lovely bloke, but he just hasn't had much luck so far. But I reckon he's going to finish this one. What do you reckon, Matty?
I really want him to as well, because he has only been DNFing in these past few races, and I really want to see him get out there and get some points on the board, and I think he can. He's got plenty of speed in that Volvo. We saw he was pretty handy in the practice session. He definitely wasn't lingering at the back. So as long as he can keep his nose out of trouble, as I say all the time, because that's very important, especially with reverse grid races, he will be on the points board. I'm gonna place my own bold prediction. I'm gonna say he is going to finish 8th.
Oh, that's I would have gone with 10th personally, but 8th is also an excellent prediction. That Volvo looking resplendent. It deserves to be on the podium. It knows it. It's just got to find its way up there. Not that I'm calling him for the podium, God no. But I'm calling him to classify and get points this race, as indeed are you. So let's see how badly we get embarrassed by the end of this race.
I just really like Volvo, so I've got to be honest. This thing's got it's got a 5-cylinder on the bonnet, so it almost sounds like a Lamborghini, but it's a brick, which is hilarious. Great juxtaposition. It's a fantastic sounding engine. It's a shame it's not the wagon version. That's a car I'm definitely partial to.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just about to say that myself. If only it was the wagon. The sedan, the wagon has a certain level of it has a certain je ne sais quoi, which I think is French for. Wait, is Volvo French? No, Volvo is Swedish. Yeah, je ne sais quoi, which is Swedish for, looks like a brick but drive quick. Whereas the
classic Swedish proverb.
Classic proverb. Whereas Greg Turra has, as I've been talking about this, Greg Turra has actually dropped out of the server. We know he's been having some technical issues tonight as his first race with this mod. So let's hope that he can get back in, or we're gonna look like absolute fools when he doesn't even start the race that we've both called him to classify in.
Maybe he was listening in, he just got tired of our crap and bailed out. I'd hope not, but it seems that every time we talk about any of these other drivers, we say how good they are, how well they'll be able to handle the car, and then we go to Greg Turra and go, geez, that's a nice Volvo, isn't it? But I think Greg Turra is a very handy steerer, and I think he's going to perform quite well in this race as long as he keeps it on the straight and narrow.
As long as he gets into the server, ideally.
So we've got just over a minute left to go, a minute 20 left to go in this warm-up session, so I'll be racing for race 2 very shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. As we detailed at the end of the first race, this man that on your screen right now, Tyrrell, along with the other 2 DNFs of Greg Turra, if he manages to get back into the server, and Zarlinger, will not start from the head of the grid, despite being the last placed runners in the last race, as they did not actually finish the 11 laps required to classify. So they will be starting from the rear of the grid, which I'm sure they won't be too happy with. But I know Tyrrell was a little bit panicked last round, starting from the pole position in the reverse grid. So maybe maybe starting from the back will give him a little bit more calm. It's a little bit more what he's used to, and he'll be able to find his way up into some points.
So the lowest placed runner that we did have in race 1 was Nether in the Nissan Primera, who was classified in 9th position, I believe it was. So he'll be starting from pole position, and he does have a tendency to have certain cars that work really well for him and other cars that don't. and he's not sure how he feels about the Nissan in the Super Touring at the moment, and he's going to be thrown directly into the deep end. So best of luck to him. We'll see how that goes. In from pole position, I think he'll be able to start well, but we'll see what happens. We will have Sam Smith next to him from the first row of the grid, so it'll be a challenge there to see what can happen. We know Nether can be very, very quick in certain fields of motorsport, so maybe this is the race where he starts finding the knack for the Nissan.
The knack for the Nissan. Yeah, we saw in the reverse grid last week that he is very, very good at defending. He had decimage within a car's length of his Nissan for basically the entire reverse grid, but managed to hold him off. So if he manages to get out in front of Sam Smith at the start of the race, get into the first corner first, I reckon he's a pretty good shot to keep Sam Smith behind him for a couple of laps, which could very much prove critical when we've got the likes of Ziras and Berto scything their way up through the field.
I just really like reverse grids, and I think everyone should too. They're fantastic. They just make everything unpredictable. You never know who's going to end up where at the end of the first lap, and it's a spectacle, an absolute spectacle. We are going to be kept very firmly on our toes, trying to keep in touch with all of it, and that will be happening in just a few minutes' time. The race session is about to start. We'll see the drivers forming up on the grid very soon, before a formation lap, followed by one more 14-lap reverse grid race to round out the events of tonight. Get ready, folks. It's going to be a perler.
It definitely is. It won't be the last time we see Oulton Park, because we will be coming back to the historic track in a different format for round 7 for the Fosters layout, which is quite a bit shorter, almost half the length of this particular layout. Getting some information that a couple of people are getting kicked from the server, so
there's only 2 people in the server. No, there's only one person. Tyrrell's the only one left at the moment, so we're having just a minor technical hurdle at the moment, and we should be underway pretty soon.
So might be Ziras needing to reset the field for the he might need to reset the entire server in order to order the field correctly. Of course, we've got to do the reverse grid order manually, because there's no real way to tell Automobilista, hey, I want the results from the previous race, but backwards, please. The game isn't quite that smart, so we've got to do it manually. And I reckon we might have just had a bit of a glitch while doing that.
So we're just waiting on word for when we'll be able to jump back into the server. Shouldn't be too long now. Don't forget, you can head to arwleague.liveraces.com to pop up the live timing on your screen, which is always a great way to have a look at the sector splits, who's going quick, who's not, and just all sorts of various stats throughout the various sessions that we have here at Oulton Park. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook as well, at Apex Rear Wing, and you can support us on Patreon as well.
Absolutely. Yes, Patreon. If you've got a couple of spare bucks, the server looks like it is back up. But if you got a $1 or $2 a month that you don't have anything better to spend on, these broadcasts do take quite a bit of setup and effort. Stairs is a absolute wizard. You should see his setup for the Automobilista Supercars Championship as well. Several screens, and he's got mice everywhere and keyboards, and I can barely keep track of it. And a whiteboard. I can barely keep track of it when I'm standing there next to him, let alone if I was the one running it. So he really does a fantastic job, and any support you can see your way to giving us, and specifically Stairs, would be greatly appreciated. Looks like the server is back up. We've got people jumping back in, so we should be off and racing in the near future. Don't go anywhere. So, Matty, you said that Oulton Park is one of your favourite BTCC tracks, or small, weird, country British racing tracks. Why exactly is that?
Well, this is one of those tracks I fell in love with early on from some of the earliest racing games I played, like V8 Supercars 1 and whatnot. And of course, in those games, you had all the rest of the British touring car tracks, like your Snetterton, your Silverstone, your Donington, whatnot. This one, the elevation change is phenomenal. It's really hard to get a grip of in your first lap around here. It's always keeping on your toes, but especially those bumps as well. And it's just such a fast track. There's really nothing else like it, especially with this older layout where we go through the island section, where you've got that long left-hand bend before you have to jump on the brakes, stabilize the car, and get it straightened up for the right-hand hairpin at Shell Oils. It's a real challenge for the drivers, and it just makes it a fantastic place to drive around. Plus, that banking on the Shell Oils corner is a beautiful thing to tear through on a quick lap. You just got to be careful not to oversteer on the way out with a rear-wheel drive car. Got to keep that car nice and loaded up with grip, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, fair enough. I think we did a practice race here in the DRMs, and that was interesting is one word, terrifying is another. It was the combination of a very quick and it's almost an unpredictable track, which is a stupid thing to say because the track doesn't change. But whenever I race around here, I always feel like I find a bump that I've never seen before, or a corner just comes at me a different way. Even if I've taken it the same way for the last 5 laps, it all just feels very different, and every single lap feels like quite a challenge. So it's definitely a very interesting track for these guys to be going around in these. I reckon if we did it in DRMs, it would have been an absolute massacre.
Absolutely. Easy to learn, hard to master, particularly in those tricky DRM cars, which just want to slide everywhere, basically. It's pretty difficult to keep those things on the straight and narrow. So with the Super Touring, the front-wheel drive cars especially, and the four-wheel drive as well, very stable. The BMWs even, in comparison, are quite lightweight. Not a massive amount of power, so they've got good handling. And that enables them to sort of be pretty easy to handle around this track as well. So it's a great combination of car and venue.
A great combination of car and venue. I like that.
I was looking for a word that wasn't track. I feel like I'd said it enough.
Track, venue, circuit, Coliseum.
I like that.
There's one of those scaphisms for Bathurst. I can't think what he calls it though. He calls Bathurst something.
Safeway car park. No, that was Simmons playing.
It's like Coliseum or like a bull ring or something. I don't know. Anyway, a bull ring is generally a smaller circuit, I'm told. Which I guess Oulton Park is kind of a smaller circuit. It will definitely apply to Foster's when we come back in round 7 for the shorter layout of this track. We're just in the warm-up session at the moment, which means that Ziras, our server admin, is probably just resetting the order ready for the race itself. So we should be ready to go, barring any more technical issues in a couple of moments. Looks like Greg Tara has made it in. So
Yay.
he's on track to at least start the race that Maddie and I have both called for him to classify in. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes for him.
So we are having one more warm-up session now that everyone's in the server, and I imagine we'll be running for the full 10 minutes, unless we aren't. I haven't been told any information.
Myself either. So I guess we are operating blind, as it were. But in the meantime, we can watch these cars do some installation laps. Not that there really is such a thing in sim racing, but regardless, getting in some last-minute practice around this tricky track. Just got a replay here of Sam Smith. Just seems maliciously taking out the speed limit sign on the exit of the pits. There you go. He just swerves out to knock it out for whatever reason. Good on him. I wonder if I think we've got Sue and Rob Smith, Sam's mum and dad, watching. So I wonder if they approve of their son's antics.
I want to believe that Sam Smith has taken out that speed limit and the sign in the hopes that someone goes to the pit lane, pulls out, is confused by the lack of sign, and just decides to keep the speed limit on the whole time to stay safe.
Just saw a massive accident, but I think that was because it was the end of the session. I think we are now ticking over into the warm-up. Oh, sorry, that we've just had the warm-up into the race. I can hear the sirens, and we've got a couple of people hopping out and onto the grid. So here we are for race 2. Reverse grid from the results of the first race, with 14 laps, 60 kilometers, no pit stops, no safety car, and no success ballast. And as said, reverse grid results from the first race, and it looks as if I've been made a liar of, and the 3 cars the DNF'd, Greg Tyrrell and Zarlinger, are indeed at the head of the field. So I'm guessing that is not meant to be the case, but perhaps there's been a last-minute change within the server itself. If this is the case, then Greg Tyrrell has immediately jumped up in his in the likelihood of him classifying in this race, Matty.
That would be one of the most sensational comebacks I've ever seen, but we have seen all the cars put off the grid, so unfortunately it was not to be. I had my hopes up so high, my heart's just been shattered.
So we're definitely on tenterhooks here, as we're being yanked to and fro by the vagaries of this Automobilista round 2 race here at Oulton Park. The reverse grid feels like we've been talking about the start of this race for longer than we're probably going to be talking about the race itself, Matty. But I'm very, very excited for when we do get it done. We've just got in the chat, we've got James Donovan just chiming in. Desamaj, for those of you playing at home, who is in the server at the moment, just chiming in with why. So not sure what the case is there, if that is just due to these technical issues that we are having. Apologies, viewers. But good thing for you is that you get to listen to me and myself and Maddie for a little bit longer.
A few horns going off in the pit lane. I think the people are getting pretty excited, or they're watching a local footy game and someone's kicked a goal. So either way, good on whoever that was.
I don't think there's many people watching local footy at the moment, at least not in a live capacity. In fact, I don't know if there's much local footy happening full stop at the moment. I know they're allowed to train, but as far as I know, there's not actually been any games yet. So we're into a new warm-up session, another 10 minutes to hopefully get this sorted out. Apologies again to all those watching, and to James Donovan in particular, who appears particularly distraught. Now that speed limit sign there is still standing, but of course Sam Smith has not left the pits yet, so that makes sense. Have to see if when he does leave the pits, if he decides to callously take it out.
I'll be keeping a very close eye on him. This is a matter that concerns me greatly. He's pulling out of the pits now.
It's now let's see can we get an onboard shot with the Sam here as he comes down the pit entry. We've got a bumper shot there, and he's gone straight past it. So he's decided to let it stand this time around.
A huge tactical change there from Sam Smith. Do you reckon he's just trying to psych out his opposition a little bit?
Very possibly. The people are going to be very
the advertising hoardings instead. I think he just wanted he wanted a variety of paint on his front bumper. That's all I'm going to put it down to. Oh, he's going across the track. He's trying to take out as many as he can see.
Yep, so he's got all the Petrobras grid ones, and he's run straight into the resist. So this is to put it lightly, a shambles. But regardless, I think we've just ticked over into yet another race session. Let's all cross fingers and toes and knock on all the wood that we've got available and can access. It looks as if the setup is correct this time, the grid setup that is. I'm seeing Netherelmian in first position, although he's not out on the grid yet. Yes, there he is. And Sam Smith in second. So looks as if we've got it all sorted. We are mere moments away from beginning what can only be a more exciting race than the last 10 minutes of padding. So I very much look forward to the start of that. Matty, how about yourself?
Oh, I'm very looking forward to it as well. I was starting to run out of material quick smart. So that's why I brought up local footy. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got a race on our hands. It is race 2 of round 2 of Apex Rear Wing Season 9. I think we've got all the cars on the grid now, so we should be getting ready for a formation lap any second now.
Yeah, absolutely. Goofball Antics left it until the very last moment by the looks of it to get out. We've got some flashing lights there in the background as per normal. I can't hear any horns.
I
Doesn't mean that there aren't any.
I think.
You can hear them? Yep, so all good. Matty, I'll let you run through the field.
So starting from pole position for race 2 as a result of the reverse grid is Netherelmian in the Nissan Primera. Next to him on the grid is Sam Smith, who we know is incredibly quick because he qualified well in the first race, but unfortunately crashed out, putting him back to 8th, which has converted it to 2nd for race 2, so you can expect him to start very strongly indeed. Speaking of good starts, Roadhog in the all-wheel drive Audi 80 will be starting from P3. We saw him launch past about 3 cars just before he got to the first corner in race 1, so he could be challenging for the lead of the race early on as well. Watch this space. Goofball Antico, if you look at the side of his car, in the Alfa Romeo for Scuderia Proto Anomaly, is starting from P4 ahead of Decimage, who is ready and really raring to go. He's been voicing his concerns in the YouTube comments, as you may be seeing, and he's very sideways through the island curve, but he will be starting this race from P5 directly ahead of Brenton Foley, who was so close to a podium position but had a technical issue which pushed him back to P4. That converts to a 6th place start for race 2, and he'll be looking to make his way up very quickly indeed. Berto is just behind him, having finished last race on the podium in 3rd position as the beneficiary of a couple of last-minute mistakes from the drivers in front of him, but also as a result of some fantastic driving early on, where he was challenging Ziras for the lead all over the place, trying to make some lunges that Ziras just wasn't allowing. So 7th position for Berto to start this race. He'll be ahead of Resist, brother of Ziras, in P8 in the Honda Accord. Black Flag Industries Racing had a very strong run, kept his nose out of trouble for the whole of race 1, got P2 as a result, and he'll be starting in P8, looking to slice his way through the field ahead of Ziras, starting out of P9, our race winner from race 1 and our pole getter as well, who currently leads the championship with 39 points, 1 point clear of Berto in the 38 points in P2. So Ziras starts from P9 in that BMW 318, and he'll, whether he is going to be able to cut through the field as well is going to be a great test. Now we have the DNFs from race 1 who are rounding out the back of the field. Zarlinger in 10th for the other Black Flag Industries racing car, Resists Recruit. We've got Tyrrell in the green BMW starting from 11th, and Greg Tara starting from 12th position in the Repsol Volvo. Crowd favourite Greg Tara. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be looking to get his first points on the board in Apex Rear Wing, and we're just starting to grid up now, Madbird.
Absolutely stellar work. Couldn't have done it better myself, and indeed didn't in the first race. So we are just getting the last of our runners on the grid here. We are about ready to go racing here at Oulton Park for the reverse grid race. I'm going to be keeping a weather eye on Roadhog off the start.
Speaking of reverse grid, Greg Tara was reversing back into his grid spot because he overshot, but the lights are on.
Lights are out, and we're away we go. Roadhog immediately shoots off up the middle of the 2 cars in front, and he is into the lead. So an incredible start there from Roadhog with the all-wheel drive Audi. Sam Smith trying to go around the outside of the first corner, and Nether into the back of him. A little bit of a punt, but no damage done, and Nether just falling back through the grid. So he's in 4th place already, with Brenton Foley with an absolute lightning start up into 3rd place, Matty.
Great start from Roadhog there. There's that all-wheel drive paying off like I predicted earlier. But look at Brenton Foley up in P3. That's a phenomenal start from him. He's got Netherelmian behind him, and Ziras is already up to 5th as well. So this slicing through the field is happening at a rapid pace, and we're just trying to see if anyone's going to make a pass. Oh, Nether! Oh, that's a big crash.
And it looks like we've got a few other excursions out into the runoff at the hairpin.
Berto as well.
Yeah. Berto and Goofball Antics, I think. So not a good start there for Berto in his chase for a 2nd reverse grid win. So Sam Smith down the inside of Roadhog, heading down and into Knickerbrook. Looks like he's got it done. And Brenton Foley as well gets up onto 2 wheels very briefly as they all run off wide of the track. And Ziras now right on the back of Roadhog as they head on down into Druids.
Music to the ears of Ziras, who saw those two blokes into the dirt just in front of him, and he was able to capitalise. No one seems to be getting up on two wheels just yet, so we're all planted firmly on the ground. Ziras is getting a little bit wobbly there, trying to find a way past Roadhog. He's pulling up alongside him now as they make their way to the final bend, and that's an easy pass into third place for Ziras. So we're not even at the first lap yet, and Ziras' mate is up 6 spots. That's a phenomenal start from him.
I would love to see the start from Ziras' perspective, because I've got no idea how he managed to get so many positions. That is absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous, which I believe is a spell from Harry Potter. We've got a replay here of Berto just, completely unsighted, outbroke himself, and it looks like he made some heavy contact there with Goofball Antics, forcing them both wide and into the runoff area. He let Goofball Antics take that position on him, but still, that was some messy driving there, and Berto currently well and truly down in 11th place. The only man behind him is Netherrealmian.
Shocking start for Berto, and he's had rotten luck for this race weekend. Let's see if he can push his way up. This field is still pretty tightly packed at the moment. He's just got to tack his way onto the back of the field in front of him. So that would be Goofball Antics and Tyrrell, as Goofball makes his way back up in front of Tyrrell and into 9th position. And as we look at the front here, Brenton Foley is up into P2.
Yeah, he is. He's right on the back of Sam Smith, and he's going to try to go around the outside of Knickerbrook. That's never going to work. And he goes sideways. He's well outside. He's spun it. He's off on the runoff area, so he's going to lose a few positions, more than a few. He's down to 4th, 5th, 6th, and maybe even 7th coming soon. There it is, 7th place. So he is just ahead of Greg Turra, who, Matty, Greg Turra is in 8th.
As long as he stays there for the next 12 laps, we'll be set. I'll be taking that one all the way to the bank. Thank you very much. But he nearly got caught out by surprise there. Nearly rear-ended Brenton Foley, as a matter of fact, as he came upon him over the crest of the hill. But luckily, stayed out of trouble. So Greg Turra still staying strong in P8, just behind Brenton Foley. And he'll be able to watch and learn, pirate his technique, if you will, to carve his way up the field behind him. But speaking of the front of the field, we do have Sam Smith still out in front by a margin of just over a second. So great start from Sam Smith.
Yeah, Ziras just set a lap time about 4 tenths per second faster than Sam Smith. And Berto actually just set the fastest lap of the race down in 10th place. So he is doing his level best to push his way.
I think there may have been a bit of contact, a little bit of biff and barge in the midfield there. And Zarlinger is now off into the gravel, trying to pull his way out by those front wheels.
That's a shame. He was looking good for a midfield position. Now down into 11th place. Looks like just got. I'm not even sure if that was contact there between Brenton Foley and himself, or if that was just. There's some pretty aggressive driving there from Brenton Foley, who got a little bit squeezed, but he probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. So, not sure if I can really blame Zarlinger for that. Not really Brenton Foley's fault either, but a half a dozen of one and 2 for Zarlinger maybe. but it's. So I've just coined that phrase, but regardless, it's resulted in Zarlinger down in 11th place, so he probably won't be too happy. Brenton Foley still in 6th, so it didn't really cost him anything. Have to wait and see if that ends up being some sort of steward decision later on down the track. At the front, Sam Smith still in the lead.
Goofball was trying to defend against Berto there for P8, and he just found himself off the track into the fence. Not a massive amount of damage, but Berto found his way onto the back of the Alfa Romeo very quickly, and now Berto is in P8, which means Greg Turra is in P7. Up 5 spots from where he started, so a great start from Greg Turra.
Absolutely, he's just keeping himself clean, which is really all he can do at this stage. Roadhog, I'm just noticing, Roadhog is currently in 3rd place. Cork in the bottle, it doesn't really cut it. He's got 3 cars side by side behind him, or they were for a brief moment, all squabbling, trying to... No, I want to be the one to attack the Audi. I want to be the one to attack the Audi. And now they've sorted themselves out. The first one who's going to line up to have a shot is Brenton Foley, although whether he's going to have an opportunity or not on this particular lap is yet to be seen. He's holding off Resist behind him. This is an incredible scrap here over the minor podium place.
Roadhog making that Audi as wide as he possibly can, and if you're in 3rd place, why wouldn't you? You've got 10 laps to go, but you want to milk this as much as you can. But Brenton Foley's having a look up the inside. He got a great run out of the Shell Oils corner, and he's pulled alongside, and he's going to find that spot very easily into the Knickerbrook corner. So Brenton Foley up to P3 in the podium spots once again.
Excellent recovery drive from Foley. He's just got to keep himself clean. That Audi, as you said in the pre-race, Matty, seems to be possibly a little bit heavy. It was just losing time all the way down the straight.
Have a look at Berto though. He's already caught up to the back of this pack in 8th position. He's all over the rear bumper of Greg Turra, who takes to the grass a little bit there. So we can see, I can imagine Berto's going to be slicing through the field pretty quickly as a couple of guys lock up in front, and Resist makes up a spot as well, which demotes Roadhog back to P5. Ziras posts the fastest lap of the race with the 132.5, and the gap at the front is around about 0.6 of a second, so we've got a battle on our hands, folks.
Yeah, so Sam Smith doesn't have a carrot. What he currently has is, I don't know, what do you call someone that's chasing you who you don't really, who you want to be chased by, but you don't want them to beat you. Is there a term for that? I don't think there is. But regardless, he's
I'd call it
less
first
than
place.
he's less than half a second ahead of Ziras now. Ziras seems to have the pace to keep on to the back of him, but as he was saying in his interview, he seems to have understeer and just locks up in all the braking zones, whereas the Peugeot of Sam Smith seems to be a lot more steady, similar to the Renault Laguna of Berto in the first race.
Yeah, absolutely. So that front-wheel drive Peugeot 406 is really looking hooked up in these corners. He has a little bit of a slide through the Knickerbrook corner, and he takes to the grass, but so does everyone really, so no big loss there. Ziras is still behind him. The gap is academic at this point. He's almost touching his rear bumper. I don't think he's going to want to have a move into Druids. No, they're going to be staying line astern through there. But we'll take a look at the last corner, the Lodge corner, to see if there's anything that Ziras can do as they make their way down this deceivingly long straight, I believe. And he's having a look, but nothing doing here.
Yeah,
they're out of this corner, of course, because anything can happen in that corner with a massive drop down the hill. But Sam Smith is still safely in the lead. What were you saying?
I think it's Ziras. What Ziras has got to do is just got to keep the pressure on and just try to force Sam into an error. We saw in the first race, Sam is definitely not immune to making some errors. He had a couple of them in the first race. So at the moment, Ziras is doing probably the only thing he really can do. There's really not too many overtaking opportunities on this track, especially not for a car that's not great in the braking zones. So he's just got to try to force Sam into going wide at on a corner exit or something like that.
Speaking of mistakes, we've had a couple of cars drop out of that midfield battle pack. We've got Decimage in P8 and Goofball Antics behind him in P9 with a gap of about 8 seconds to the pack in front of them. So Berto is in 7th at the moment with Greg Tara in P6 sitting right behind Roadhog and having a look up the inside but nothing doing as Roadhog goes very wide and spears off the track into the fence.
Oh no.
Oh, that's very unfortunate.
That's very unfortunate. That was a very, very that was a noble fight there for Roadhog. He was losing positions, but he was making every corner count. He was managing to hold on to those positions as long as he possibly can.
It's going to fight in. Have a look at Ziras at the front here. They're side by side as they go up to Druids. Ziras is having a very good look. They're still side by side. The pass is technically on, and he's got it done for the time being. Ziras is up to P1, and Sam Smith is getting his rally license hours up as well.
That was incredibly close as Sam Smith goes for the inside at Lodge.
There's some
Was that a
contact.
little tap? Maybe a tiny bit of a tap, yep, but all clean. There's no cars facing the wrong way, which isn't what we want to see. Sam Smith, though, we say it every race, Sam Smith now has a carrot.
Oh, Berto's off the track. He's tried to get past Greg Tara, and Greg Tara just thrown him a dummy off into the grass, and Berto is now down in P6, missing a rear bumper to boot as well. So he's gotten mixed up. I get it. He's gotten mixed up a little bit in... just talking to my producer there. Don't worry, I'm not talking to myself. I'm not completely crazy. So Berto's in P6, missing a rear bumper. He's gotten caught up in something. Greg Tara, as a result, is in P5 in the Repsol Volvo. And Resist, we haven't talked about Resist much lately this race, but he's all over the back of Brenton. Foley! Oh, he's gone into the grass. That's a huge shortcut. I'm going to guess he's going to get a track violation for that one, surely.
But he's managed to pull it up in time for the hairpin, which is sort of the important thing, I guess. But I've been watching this, I've been keeping an eye on it. Resist has just slowly been closing that gap down to Brenton Foley, and has been keeping him under pressure, which is basically what he did in the first race, and caused an unforced error from Brenton Foley. So he's got to try to keep his nose as close to the back of that BMW as he can. Brenton Foley, by his own admission, not comfortable in these cars, although with the speed that he has, he could have fooled me. But he's just got to try to make him as uncomfortable as possible, I suppose. As he goes through Druids, he looks entirely comfortable there.
Just want to draw your attention back to the lead of this race, because that purple and green BMW in Sam Smith's eyes has turned orange and now has a green top resembling a carrot because the gap is completely minimal between these two. It's about 0.3 of a second. Oh, a bit of a slide there from Ziras. He's going to lose a bit of time, and Sam Smith is going to take advantage. Oh, there's contact in the rear quarter there. He's trying to find a gap, but there's nothing doing. Ziras is still ahead, but Sam Smith's looking up the inside. There's brakes locking and wheels sliding everywhere. Oh, geez, it's all happening here, folks.
I got to tell you, Rob and Sue Smith must be having an absolute ball watching this. Sam is all over the back of Ziras, and he's in his natural element doing a chase. We've got Brenton Foley with an enormous swapper coming out of the Cascades, I think that was, as they're coming down into the island bend. Resist is all over the back of him. Brenton Foley just seems to be streaking away and then handing it all back to Resist all in one go. And Resist probably thinking, I quite like that you're penalising yourself to help me out, but could you penalise yourself a tiny bit more, please? I want to be on that third step at the podium.
Meanwhile, while all this has been happening, I didn't realise we do have our first DNF for the race, and that is Tyrrell. So we've got 11 runners left with Nether sitting at the back of the field as we stand at the moment. And we've got some great battles. Let's not forget Brenton Foley getting up on two wheels just a little bit. Hasn't lost too much time. We've got to spin somewhere.
No, Sam Smith just getting up on two wheels in his chase after Ziras, but manages to hold on to it. He has lost a bit of time, but he can try to claw that back. Behind them, we have Greg Tara in the lofty heights of 5th position under some intense pressure from Berto. And just ahead of them, we've got Brenton Foley coming under some pressure, some more pressure from Resist. So we've got battles all up and down the field here at the moment at Oulton Park.
They're all pairing off at the moment. Grab your partner, round we go. Let's get ready for the next heel toe as we see Berto right on the back bumper of that Volvo. He's going to have a look into turn 1, but Greg Tara's just driving it. Never mind, he's gotten past. I was going to say he's having a really good defensive race, but he's just fallen off the track a little bit and he's let Berto slip through. Still a valiant effort from Greg Tara. He hasn't been able to register a point or a finish yet in Apex rear wing, and here he is in P6 at the moment, and I reckon he's looking pretty good to hold on to that. Touchwood, I'm not going to talk about him anymore because I'm going to curse the absolute living daylights out of him, and he's going to spear off into the fence at 300 kilometres an hour. They can't even achieve those speeds in those cars. Brenton Foley is in P3 still at the moment. Resist is a little bit further back. So that's just a bit of a steady battle happening at the moment. That might fire up a little bit more in the next few laps. Speaking of which, these laps have been flying rapidly. We're up to lap 9 of 14. We're well past the halfway point here, and time really flies when you're having fun, doesn't it, Madbo?
It absolutely does. I haven't had much opportunity to catch my breath, so thank you for taking over talking there for a few minutes. Brenton Foley, as you said, he's got a little bit of a gap behind him, but Resist is going to have to start worrying about Berto, who, now that he's been released from Greg Tara, is closing in on the back of the Black Flag Industries Nissan. And Resist has had a bit of experience racing with Berto, a bit of experience racing with everyone, it must be said. He is a veteran now of Apex Rear Wing. At the front, Sam Smith has closed that gap back down to under half a second on Ziras, and similar to the Renault in the first race, he just seems to be catching up in every braking zone, but the BMW seems to have the legs on the straights as Sam goes bump, 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 bump all the way through the Cascades, manages to come out of it facing the right way. But that was, you forget how, look, you can see them as they're coming down this quote-unquote straight.
Oh, Brenton Foley's in the gravel. He's lost P3. He's well off the track. He's down into 5th position now, promoting Berto up to 4th, and Resist is in the podium spots once again.
Oh no, so Resist is going to have Berto all over the back of him in the closing stages of this race for that last podium position. Poor Brenton Foley, same place as last time when he lost out on his 2nd position in the first race, just dipped a tyre again into the Cascades. I wonder if it was a technical issue again, or if it was, if that one was self-inflicted. Regardless, he has recovered back to the track down in 6th place, which is not where he wants to be when he was running in the 3rd position in this race. But at least, I suppose, he is still running, unlike Goofball Antics, who was just DNF'd. So not sure what's happened there with the Alfa Romeo, but he is in the garage. So unfortunate there for Goofball Antics.
Doesn't seem to be any damage on that car at the moment, but it may have repaired itself as soon as it appeared in the garage. I don't know how this game works, to be completely honest with you, but there's every chance it could be a technical issue. We'll catch up with him a little bit later on to see what's happening there. Now, back at the front, there's a little bit of a gap forming, just over a second, so it looks like Ziras is pulling away just a little bit. So what do you think the strategy is for Sam Smith? Obviously, the strategy is to drive fast and catch up to him again, but once he gets there, do you sit behind Ziras and see if you can push him into making a mistake, or do you just try and lunge for a spot wherever you can?
most people probably would do the former. Sam Smith definitely would attempt to do the latter. He's going to try to shove his nose up wherever he can fit it. At the moment, it's not looking like he's going to get his nose anywhere near that car of Ziras. The carrot is beginning to look like a postage stamp with Donald Trump's face on it. That's how indistinct the orange of that carrot is in the distance. He's about a second behind, and he hasn't managed to close any time so far this lap. So it could be that the ship has sailed there for Sam Smith, getting back into the first place. Resist, though, in the last podium position in third, currently under a lot of pressure from Berto in the Renault.
And we know Berto is incredibly quick. He was able to put Ziras under pressure for almost the entirety of race 1 before he made that error. So this is going to be a ding-dong battle between these two for the final podium spot. We've got another battle a little bit further back. Greg Tara trying his best to hold off Brenton Foley. So a couple of nice little midfield battles happening here. They can definitely keep your eyes on, as Sam Smith is still languishing.
Resist wide. Sorry to cut across you, Ed Druids. He's well off the track. Berto swoops through into third place, and that is going to promote Greg Tara up into fourth place and Brenton Foley into fifth. So not sure if there was any contact there or just an unforced error from Resist. Just maybe getting a little bit overawed by the man that he saw in his rearview mirrors. Yeah, looks like he did it all by himself. Straight
He's off the fence again. Resist is off the track again. And
he looks like he's broken off his front bumper.
I think so. I'm not sure if he's going to continue this race. He doesn't seem to be making too much of an effort to get out of his sandpit. So that looks like it could very well be race over for Resist. What a shame.
Looks like he's trying to drop the clutch to get the car out of the sand. It's very possibly a deep sandpit. He is on lap 11, so he just needs to limp the car across the line, and he will qualify for points in this race. Which, speaking of, Brenton Foley nearly spinning behind the man I was about to talk about. Greg Tara has started the 12th lap, Matty, and we've had 2 DNFs. Do you know what that means? He cannot not classify in this race.
Congratulations early on to Greg Tara, even if he's just getting a little bit of points on the board. We don't know where he's going to finish, but we know he's going to classify. So that'll be his first registered points finish in Apex Rear Wing. That's a great achievement for Greg Tara. Well done. I know I like talking about him a lot. I promise I'm not completely biased. I just really like Volvos, folks. Brenton Foley is all over his rear bumper. There's a little bit of a smoke up ahead. I think Berto had a little bit of a lock up ahead of them, because Berto's all his own. There's no real cars in front of him that he's in touching distance of. The gap between Sam Smith and Berto, as a matter of fact, is 10 seconds. So the only real battling we're going to be seeing for the important positions may be for third position if Berto makes an error. But there's a gap of about 3.5 seconds between Berto and Greg Tara in fourth position. So at the moment, Brenton Foley's just trying to get as close as he can, just trying to make his way up there, but he's got 2 laps to do so.
Yeah, the gap at the lead and at the front has ballooned out to 3 seconds between Ziras and what's his name, Sam Smith, as they are on the penultimate lap.
You'd have to apologise to his parents for that one. Brenton Foley's up on the inside of Greg Tara now as they go up the lakeside straight. Oh, very close. They're nearly rubbing mirrors there. Greg Tara concedes the place very well. Very good driving craft there from Greg Tara. He's not going to try. What's the point? Hang on. Oh no! He's gone off the track and hit the fence! Unbelievable! He must have got a wheel in the dirt or something, because he's just gone off.
I thought it was going to be an airplane crash as he rejoined at the apex of the hairpin, but he managed to avoid. Resist is actually a lap down. He dove into the pits to get his car repaired after that damage. So as you were saying that he wasn't going to force the point, I'm not sure if he was actually trying to make an overcut around that hairpin or if he just missed his braking zone, Matty.
I'd say he just missed his braking zone. By the time he picked it up, he had a couple of wheels in the inside dirt, because I think Brenton Foley wasn't expecting to be there and moved onto the outside of the track. So there was no contact there, but it was a little bit of a racing incident, you could say. Nobody's fault, really. And Greg Tara is still running in 5th position, and of course he will be classified, so it'll still be a very good result for him. Berto just posted the fastest lap of the race with a 1:32.368, but that still leaves him 9.5 seconds off the lead of the race with 1 lap to go, and that's going to be a very difficult margin to overcome, I think, Mad Bird, just quietly.
Yes, in the words of Bruce McAvaney, you just feel that if he catches 10 seconds in this last lap, he might take that second place, Matty. I very much doubt that's going to occur, though. Ziras, however, is over halfway through this last lap, as he held off a early challenge from Sam Smith. An early challenge. Well, first half of the race, he held off the challenge from Sam Smith after taking the lead pretty early on in the piece. A little bit sideways there going through Knickerbrook, but he manages to hold on to it. Very classy. He's giving us a show. He probably knows we're watching him as he's heading on down into Druids. You can see Sam Smith there, a distant second. And by distant, I mean 2.4 seconds, so really not that distant at all, but regardless, a valiant fight from Sam Smith for that first place, but I don't think it's controversial to say that the better man won out in the end, despite apparently being bad in the braking zones, which is pretty much what this track is. Ziras takes his second win of round 2 here at Oulton Park, and Sam Smith comes home a valiant second. He hopefully was not bored this time around, and Berto comes across the line in third after 2 consecutive podium sitters ahead of him fell off the track.
Brenton Foley crosses the line in P4, which is a great result for him, but it means he is still yet to register. No, he got a podium in the last round that I wasn't even commentating on, so that's egg in my face being in alignment. Greg Tara, let's switch the topic. Greg Tara brings it across the line, lights ablaze. 5th position, he's got some points on the board. Congratulations, Greg Tara. Decent match in the Peniston Oils car. Brings it across the line in P6, with Zarlinger coming across the line in P7 to get some points as well. So that's a great finish from Zarlinger there. 7th position for him.
Very solid finish. Roadhog in 8th. Just coming around the last corner now with, looks like he's missing some parts off his Audi there, but he put up a very good fight at the start, as he did in the previous reverse grid. That Audi is fantastic off the start, and he battled every position from then on, but he comes home in an 8th position, with Netherelmian rounding the last corner to come home 9th, and our 10th place runner Resist has cried uncle and gone back to the pits. So having classified and with 2 DNFs behind him, Resist comes home in the last points paying position in 10th. Now, it looks as if Ziras' rear bumper has been knocked off there at some stage by Berto. A little bit of a love tap, perhaps. So congratulations.
A bit of friendly banter, if you will. So Ziras just completing his victory lap now. We're still waiting for the points to be updated, but I can tell you for a fact that Ziras now leads the championship by 6 points is the margin there for the championship. So he's broadened that gap out quite a little bit, and that's going to put him in the box seat for the rest of the season to come. And we're starting to get the podium getters in the commentary box now. Would you like to do the interviews, Mad Bird, or would you like me to tackle them this time?
I'll take the ones that I like. So Berto, again, similar to the first race, you sort of, I don't want to say you were gifted it because you had to work to get there, but a couple of people fell off the track ahead of you, and you found yourself in the final podium position. Berto, how'd you find that race?
Saved me having to do a little bit of passing, but boy, was she hectic. That was a hair on the knuckles kind of race, but put in the fastest lap, so happy with that.
Absolutely. Did you think there was any chance of you closing in on Sam Smith and Ziras ahead when you found yourself in third, or did they sort of have your measure in terms of pace this race?
A couple of laps left and good 11 seconds ahead, so they were well clear. But yeah, after the off on the first lap, was happy to claw it back to third. So pretty happy with that as a result.
Very good. You have lost your lead of the championship. You lost it in the first race of the round, but you are now 6 points behind Ziras. So you've got you now have, as we like to say, a carrot to chase. Do you think? How do you think you'll go next round at the next track, which I probably should have prepared myself to know what it is going to be at Snetterton? How do you find Snetterton?
Yeah, pretty good. Look, Sam's in the chat too, so I don't know how I feel about me having a carrot rather than him. But yeah, looks like it's going to be a close round thing between 5 or 6 of us. So really flip of a coin as to who turns up and who's quick next week. Looking forward to it.
Fair enough. Thank you, Berto, and congratulations again on your 2 third places tonight. Matty,
guys.
I think you've got second place man Sam Smith.
Sam Smith, I was suspecting that you were going to have a great start there from the front row of the grid, and you really did, and you were able to challenge Ziras for quite a portion of the race there. How is the Peugeot feeling in comparison to Ziras' car there?
I had some really good sectors. Like, I could actually catch up on him, which is surprising. And I could see him losing it. He was getting rear-ended out a lot, and I think he's wearing his tyres out. Surely I could do something. Maybe he can make one mistake, but no. Yeah, that's...
Well, you still had a valiant effort there to hold on to P2. How do you feel about the next race that we got in Snetterton? Is it a track you got much experience with?
I have no idea. I can't even remember the track at all. It feels like year 12. Like I don't do preparation, and then the results show up for that. Whereas Berto will do the preparation, get the setup going, and smash it. Yeah, I'll try and learn over the day.
Well, you're currently third in the championship, mate, and you're on a roll at the moment as a result of that second place. So, congratulations to you once again. Madbird, would you like to take the interview with the race winner?
I said I'd only interview the people I like. I've got Ziras here with me. Well done, 2 first place finishes for this round, and you just seemed like lightning on the first lap of the reverse grid. You were up into fourth or fifth or something, basically at the exit of the first corner. How'd you find the reverse grid there, mate?
Well, I got the best start I'll ever get, I think, ever. Yeah, and from there, well, most of the harder people to pass, I think, were already done with. And then, obviously, Foley and Sam sent each other off, and I made my own mistake, and luckily held it together. And yeah, I think my pass on Sam was quite spectacular too. But yeah, he was quite quick. A few laps there, he was actually faster and actually putting pressure on me. So a bit disappointing he didn't keep up, but at the same time, like, I got a race win out of it. So yeah, it was good.
Absolutely, a race win and the championship lead. 6 points clear at the top ahead of Berto. How do you feel about Snetterton?
Next.
Excellent. So thank you to all of our podium sitters for hopping in, as you always do, for a chat. That was round 2 of season 9 here at Oulton Park Classic / International. Matty, how did you find the racing tonight?
Oh, phenomenal. Did you hear me carrying on? This is great. I've missed Apex Rear Wing. It's been a long time since I've been in the box, and geez, it's been fantastic to get back in. Some of the racing's been phenomenal. These cars are so much fun to watch because they can slip and slide all over the place. It gives some of the rookies a good chance to mix it up with some of the stalwarts in the series, and it's really easy to pick up, especially for some of these new guys. You can tell I'm leading this towards Greg Tara, can't you? I'm just so happy for him. Getting that 5th position, getting some points on the board for his Apex Rear Wing record book. So yeah, I'm just really happy with the results this evening. It's been great fun watching, and I cannot wait for next week's racing at Snetterton.
Absolutely, I can only echo all of your sentiments. Some fantastic racing all up and down the field, and some excellent racecraft by all involved, and of course crowd favourite Greg Turry in the Ovlov coming home to get his first points finish in Apex Rear Wing. So who can't celebrate that? Don't go anywhere. All right, well, do go somewhere, but come back in a week's time, and we will be at the Snetterton 200 track for round 3 of Apex Rear Wing Season 4. I've been Madbird.
I've been Matt.
And Stairs has also been here, although you haven't really heard him. Stairs, do you want to sign off as well, Matt?
Sure, why not? Thanks for joining us, everyone. It's been an absolute blast. We'll see you next week.